expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
A very good morning to you, and how are you doing? Welcome to the Situation Room. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, 8th of November, 2019, the morning after, the day after the Kibra by-election. Good morning, C.T. Muga.
Yes, Eric.
How you doing?
I am well, thank you.
Good to see you. Good to see you, Jerry Thorne.
Good morning. Good to see you too, Eric.
How you doing?
And CT. I'm good.
Well, so the Kibra by-election happened yesterday. Counting has been going on overnight. The official result hasn't been declared, but the second candidate has conceded already. So we already have an indication of who the winner is. We're just waiting for the formal announcement of this winner this morning. Let's take a look at what else is on the headlines in the papers.
Right. Well, I happen to be looking at a paper with those very headlines. Raila locks Ruto out of bedroom. Of course, that's been the sort of running joke throughout all of this. ODM Imran Okoth succeeds his brother, Ken Okoth, who died in July. We have to remember he did have that slight advantage. He had worked with the CDF. He was managing the CDF. And of course, Okoth, who was, Kenneth Okoth, who was very popular, was his brother. And then we've got a footballer here turned politician. So let's see what will happen with Mariga thereafter. And then Eliud Awalo, who we had here, is a former Raila strategist, and let's see what will happen to him. But of course, that's what we'll be discussing today, but that's what's on the headlines in the Standard.
All right. The Standard also has the two men with the toughest jobs in Kenya. This is talking about the Treasury Acting CS Ukur Yatani and the Kenya Revenue Authority boss James Mboro, who have the unenviable task of saving the country from a debt treadmill. It's been given 2 pages by the Standard this morning, page 6 and page 7. This is, one has to balance the books. This is the Treasury CS. The other has to raise cash in a bleeding economy.
And why are they the most difficult jobs?
Because this is, without money, nothing else moves.
Yeah, but the money is there. I mean,
It's just been nicked, has it?
So,
the money has always been there.
so here's the issue, though. The KRA has to raise 1.8 trillion shillings. That's what KRA is saying. This is what we can comfortably actually project that we are going to be able to raise this financial year, 1.8 trillion shillings. In this financial year, we have to pay debts of 800 billion shillings. All right? 600 billion shillings, the balance that the government will be left with after disbursing cash to counties and paying debt.
Okay.
So we pay debt, we take money, the national government is left with 600 billion. 1.2 trillion is from the government's ambitious 3 trillion spending plan for the 2019-2020 year. It'll need to raise this amount outside of tax collections.
Raise it outside of tax collection.
Deficit of 1.2 trillion.
Meaning they have to borrow it.
No, I mean, there's exports and so on. Not all revenue comes from tax collection in a country.
All right. Our exports.
There's tourism. There's tourism, for instance.
Yes.
There's services that we pay the government
How
for.
does the money go to the government? Through tax.
No. Not all of it. I mean, for
So
instance,
how does the money
exports.
get
So how does the how do we raise those 1.2 trillion? One of them is debt. The
It's
others-
tax.
One of them is debt. No, the 1.2 trillion
It has
deficit.
to be outside of tax. It has to be raised outside tax. Now you're telling me the only avenue through which the government raises revenue is tax.
Let's look
Unless
at it this
it's
way.
selling
If-
someone.
If there's a difference.
No, for instance, when I come into the country, I pay £50 for a visa.
That
That's
is a
service.
tax.
It's not a tax.
It's a levy.
It's
Whatever
not.
you call
Well,
it.
and then any money given to the government is a levy. But we know
Yes.
what taxes are. Taxes are deductibles from when you're spending money
And
or
the
when
only
you're paid.
and you know what? So all that money goes through KRA. So this is what KRA is raising. So whether you're bringing in, you're paying through these levies, what it's going into KRA. 1.8 trillion has already been accounted for. The other 1.2 hasn't. So, and the Treasury CS is saying we have never defaulted on any loans and will not, and we must find a way of retiring expensive loans and taking up cheaper ones from friendly development partners. We are resorting to factory settings. So we had gone actually into getting expensive commercial loans rather than concessionary loans. and it's
No,
costing us
why would
so
anybody
much.
do this? This is the question. Why would we go for more expensive loans with shorter tenures that just put us under a lot of pressure, whereas
Scrutiny.
we have the opportunity to go for cheaper loans. Kibaki did that, 10-year term loans that could wait for the crystallization of the projects that the loans were being used for to be able to pay them back. With us, we're going for 4-year loans. So somebody's
At high
profiteering.
interest rates.
These must be deals that are being
8%,
cut somewhere. And
10%. Imagine you're paying debt at 8 to 10%.
You know, the 10% doesn't look like it's much, but you look at the amount that we are borrowing.
And you have to remember there's intricacies such as we've borrowed in dollars. So when the dollar fluctuates,
Every time it does, like
$1
a shilling.
Absolutely. Could
Actually,
mean billions.
What it means is that if you're not careful, you may never actually finish paying this debt ever.
Yeah.
Because somehow with the dollar fluctuations, we tend to be at the receiving end of
It becomes
this
expensive
particular-
overnight.
Yes.
It's a tough one. So now you see why it's these two guys have a tough job.
Actually, I don't still see it. Why I don't see it is this. How is it that when someone is given a job for which we believe they are amply qualified, the whole reason, how many people could they have chosen? Many, but these are the people who are actually appointed for this post. Is that not so?
True.
It means they must have qualities that were required for the tasks
Yes.
ahead. Yes. So it isn't as though it is. If I employ someone to be a gardener, why is his job difficult? That's what I've employed him for. He's supposed to be good at it. What I should be marveling at.
If he's coming in to actually start your garden from scratch, right? So he's coming to cut off trees and there are rocks in your compound.
But Eric,
he has a very tough job.
But before you employ this person, you'll have known what you want him to do.
Which is a tough
And you'll
job.
have told him, I want to cut trees, I want to cut grass, I want to remove rocks. And the rocks that we have, aren't them in my neighbor's compound. You would have taken him through all this, isn't it?
Yeah.
So when you then give him the task, it isn't that it's difficult. You employ him because he's able.
What's interesting is if you look at what KRA is saying, I've got a quote here from the Commissioner General, James Borrow. He says, I can assure you that we now have to put up new resources and effective systems which are helping us collect more tax. We're collecting more than in the past, and in the centralized system of revenue collection that we're using, it's much better than the decentralized one. So he goes on about collecting tax, which is never a populist statement when you look at it from a political perspective. But they've done this communications very well, because if you remember, they were going for the mighty rich. Do you remember there was that sort of intensified campaign where they went for Keroche and so on?
Yeah.
So what you'll find is Kenyans will think, oh, well, they're going for the very rich. They don't realize actually they're also collecting taxes from us, even the informal sector, through sort of consumer tax. So when I buy things, when I buy petrol and so on, there's a lot of tax being collected from me. But they've communicated in a way that doesn't make them too unpopular, because tax is an emotive subject when it comes to sort of politics and trust and confidence in the government. Whereas here, we don't seem to be hating on KRA too much. They've sort of thrown that monkey on the rich somewhat in terms of their communication. So
It's worked
interesting
well.
one. It has. Very strategic.
Also in the standard, we have Raila swearing in not illegal court rules.
Right.
Someone had taken one Mr. Tom Kajwang to court. Yes, to say that he had participated in an illegality.
Treasonous.
Kabisa. Is treason still punishable by death in this country?
I don't know whether it's actually still a capital punishment.
But we removed the death.
No, we haven't. We haven't removed the death penalty. We just, the word would be turn a blind eye. So we actually don't carry out any.
We don't have any law that prohibits killing of people.
Yeah, we don't have.
A law
Remember, that's
prohibiting? Of course we do.
That's why
Murder and so
earlier
on.
we were looking at the report from the Attorney General after the task force that was established on the direction of the courts to go and review and advise the government and the judiciary
On
on
the
what
death
to do with the
penalty.
death penalty. So it's
I
still
think
there.
the last one was actually for treason, the last person that was hanged in 1987 following the 82 coup. So that was the last person that was hanged. We do have a lot of people on death row, but in terms of them actually sort of being executed, that hasn't happened.
So
But
tell us
sorry,
about
back
anyway
to-
the swearing in.
Well, it went before the chief magistrate, that is the Ngong Road Court, and after examining all the evidence before him, he said the two main things. He said, one, there was the issue. See, one of the things that brought up was that one Mr. Tom Kajwang had worn this wig that you find lawyers wearing when they have completed whatever task they're supposed to complete at the law school. Well, yes, it was brought before the judge. I mean, the magistrate. They said, it was he shouldn't have won at that point in time. The magistrate said, actually, there's nowhere where it says how he should wear it.
You must wear it within this.
No, yes, exactly. Number two, one subtle point here: there was no illegality committed for the simple reason that Raila was sworn in as the people's president, not the president of Kenya. So again, there was nothing that breaks the law in that entire.
Absolutely, you have president of societies and associations.
Yes.
You've got the LSK president.
They were very clever. They actually did not pick the constitutional oath.
No.
So he didn't swear the oath of God. I mean, it was just, he said some words.
Yes, he
that
did.
I swear to be the president of the people of Kenya.
Yes, exactly.
Not the republic.
No. Anyway.
Nice one.
So, the courts do have some interesting rules in at some points, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
But there's something of interest here. There's a journalist who works for the Standard Media who exposed a certain matter. It's called Mr. Stephen Zioka. He's a correspondent based in Makwini County. And he talked about the killing that took place in Wote. And he now claims that his life is in danger. He's being threatened by the very people that he exposed. This is not a news story. We've heard this story before, where people keep claiming that every time they say something or there's a whistle blowing, that their life immediately
is in danger.
Yes.
Funny one. Former President Daniel Arap Moi is back home after hospital stay. Doctors discharged the former head of state after giving him a clean bill of health as a family thanks Kenyans who offered prayers and sent quick recovery messages.
It's good to hear.
It's good to hear that, Mzee is back home.
Some good news.
But there are two stories that I found particularly intriguing, and they both involve SACCOs.
Right.
Yes. One involves, the Moi University SACCO. The cooperative bank are demanding, and the court has agreed that after a certain period of time, in this case around 40 days, they can sell property belonging to this SACCO, who owe 500 million Kenyan shillings. Then, just when you think it is safe to get out of the water,
You turn the page.
you turn the page, and lo and behold, just turn the page. Ajetan is also in the red for a debt of 5 billion.
5 billion.
Yes.
One is 500 million.
Yes.
The other one is
5 billion. Yes. But the SACCO claims that the university owes it, it owes it around 434. Man, the monies people owe. I'm reading it, and it's not mind-boggling. It's actually disturbing. But these aren't the only SACCOs that seem to have a problem. This week alone, there have been reports in the media regarding two other SACCOs. Some were threatening to actually wind up with people's money. Some, there were complaints that they were slowly but surely becoming insolvent. What is happening to these SACCOs? One SACCO, you'd say, okay, but more than one SACCO being reported in mainstream media that they are actually having problems.
It's actually a disturbing thing.
No, I'm disturbed because if a
these are two university SACCOs.
So these are big universities.
These are big universities.
Yes.
Moi University, Egerton University, not even the new ones.
No.
Then, of course, you also go back and look at the other SACCOs that have had issues, right? People going and saying, where is our money? Where are our deposits? SACCOs are basically, people have deposited their money.
It's their money, yes. And unfortunately for them, if the SACCO folds, it folds with your money.
Yeah. That's it.
By the way, this deposit protection fund that the government has, does it cover SACCOs?
Does it cover SACCOs? I'm not sure.
Because I know it covers banks. Whether it covers SACCOs, I'm not really sure about this. I think in the coming days, we are going to encounter and we're going to come across more and more cases of SACCOs having problems.
But why would SACCOs have problems anyway? This is about management.
Mismanagement, but also...
Is there anything else about the economic conditions, blah, 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 blah?
Yes and no.
People not repaying loans, defaulters?
Partly they do, but you see, part of the reason why that can't be a problem, The way
There's deposits.
Yes, the way SACCOs indemnify themselves is that people have to guarantee you. And they don't guarantee you with a piece of land or a bicycle. They guarantee you with money they actually have within the SACCO. So if you default, they just take the money.
Yep.
So it can't be that. What often happens is like when you hear saying like in Egerton University where the SACCO is saying they are owed, it means the university actually deducts the money from the members of the SACCO, but they're not remitting. Remember that same story we've heard about NHIF and NSSF?
Yes.
The money is deducted.
From the employee.
Yes, but it isn't remitted.
Yes.
That is how it comes about. But SACCOs don't usually have a problem with that. Where they have
It was
a
the
problem
same actually
also,
with the giant government workers SACCO. Was it
Yes,
Harambe?
Yes, Harambe SACCO. The other problem that SACCOs also tend to have is that irregular loans that the officials give themselves. Because then they aren't fully indemnified because after all they are giving themselves loans. Yeah, but this isn't a new story. Very many of the banks that have collapsed in this country had similar tales that followed them, that people who are directors and people who had a large stake in this had borrowed irregularly. Irregularly here was you've taken money but you don't have sufficient security to cover it should something goes wrong. And then certain things did go wrong and of course the banks would go under. Now these are the things that later led to the central bank increasing the basic minimum deposit that was required by banks either to deposit the central bank or what they call the liquidity ratio, where now it was imperative that that particular limit be raised for the simple reason that it was felt in the absence of that, these institutions couldn't carry out the mandate that they claimed to be carrying because they would take people's deposits, but those deposits again were not secured. Now SACCO seemed to fall into that trap.
Interesting.
So there was another by-election yesterday, lest we forget. Not just one. There were many others around the country. But one of interest to me this morning is one that was happening in Kilifi County for a MCA seat. And why it's important is you remember during one of the campaigns there was a scuffle and somebody was shot and they died. And of course, ODM was fighting to retain that seat. And the local ODM MP was not campaigning for the ODM candidate. She was campaigning for the opposition's candidate.
She was.
The Jubilee candidate. She lost. Well, or rather, they lost. The ODM has retained the seat in that particular ward.
Well, the thing about elections, you can't have two winners.
You can only get one.
It's only one. So someone had to win. And in this case, you see, now, remember we've been talking about the influence and what some of these wins and losses mean. For the real bigger players whose names we keep mentioning, it may imply something, but they have a chance of bouncing back. But if you're in the position of an MP and you've been staking your reputation on this, it is a serious dent for you.
Completely. Aisha Jumwa had actually staked her reputation on this.
Yes.
She did not even observe the election yesterday in the constituency because she was at the DCI headquarters in Nairobi.
Yes.
Answering questions. Hard-pressed to explain bank transactions. She was yesterday hard-pressed to explain the movement of money into and out of her bank accounts. The money originated from companies that had been contracted by her constituency and used to buy property. Yep. So the CDF, this is about CDF, well. 312 million shillings said to have been siphoned from the Malindi CDF through companies linked to her, which detectives think used forged documents or were given undue advantage to bag contracts.
Turns out, with Waitito and so on, you don't want to be on the wrong side of the establishment at the moment.
No, you cross over.
Let's all your skeletons come out of the closet here.
This is not a new trick, but wow.
It isn't a new trick.
It's a bit of a slap on the wrist.
Yes.
Behave yourself, young lady.
Yes.
Being told.
But remember now,
we know.
You actually see the pains they go through in actually following certain sequences of the law, meaning you're taken to court, evidence is provided, and even if, the thing about evidence being provided, it's damning. Things about you that you probably would have hoped that people would
never come out.
Yes, it'll come out now.
Just expose. Bah!
Yes, exactly.
But the question is, CT, is this because this is a legal process that we're taking her through, or is this to teach her to toe the party line? Is this a punishment from sort of the powers that be to teach her a lesson? Because there is a correlation between those who are going against this handshake
and their affiliation.
And you know, them sort of, if you look at Waitito, anybody who's been very outspoken. So I think it's a case of every single politician has skeletons in the closet. Every single politician can be charged with something. So if you go against the status quo or the sort of zeitgeist, whichever direction the country is going in terms of the establishment, then they just come for you, and it's very easy because it seems that everybody has something they can be charged with. Every single person. Aisha Jumwa is being done for how much? In terms of
312 million.
I mean, who would have thought? This is an MP at the coast, female MP, you know, who had a lot of support, of course, previously from Raila, and she was very fanatical about Raila, if I remember, in the previous campaign. So, you know, she shouldn't disrespect the handshake. I think that's the message there.
Toe the line. This comes to explain then what we were discussing yesterday about Parliament, and basically just Parliament observing and letting things pass.
Well, towing the party line is important, not necessarily in terms of politics, but in terms of ideologies. So you belong to a party because of certain ideologies. You don't want to vote against those ideologies. Of course, here we're not dealing with ideologies most of the time, but you'll find some bills will probably be more left-wing or sort of more socialist than others. So if your party is a socialist party, for instance, it's a bill that you should be voting for. So by not voting for it, you wouldn't be towing the party line, or you'd be going against the party ideologies. That's what we're supposed to be looking at when we talk about party lines and towing them. Here, it's more about sort of supporting personalities, initiatives, and sort of adventures within the party. It's not about ideologies per se. So at the moment, those who've had a slap on the wrist, including Nyiri,
let's start again.
Okay, say it for me, please.
Nyoro.
Nyoro. And Waitito, and now we're seeing Aisha Jumwa. These are guys who have spoken up against the handshake. So it's a bit of a slap on the wrist, behave yourself sort of thing.
You know, this isn't a practice that is unique to Kenya. No. Even in the most developed of nations, if you sort of like make the mistake of positioning yourself as someone who seems to constantly be anti the establishment, there will be a price to pay. Now, you see, what if they were picking on these people and presenting cases in court that were false or things that had never happened, you'd say, okay, they're being picked on. The argument I would use is that previously they were being given preferential treatment. You had certain things, people just look the other side. Now they're saying, okay, since we're no longer friends, and you've indicated we're no longer friends.
We're not turning a blind eye.
No, we're not turning a blind eye to these things. We are now going to talk about these things.
It suggests that everybody does have some sort of corruption cases.
It's not just politicians. I remember once I got friendly with some traffic policemen who happened to man a certain roadblock at Mazeras. And so in just chatting with them, one of them told me casually, you know, if we want to find a mistake with your vehicle, we will find it. I said, okay. What if it's just from the showroom? He said, very simply, I'll ask you for the receipt. I said, the what? He said, the receipt. He said, if you said you have bought it, you need to have a receipt. So I said,
what do you mean a receipt?
Well, you've claimed the car is yours. You've bought it. He said, he was actually demonstrating to me.
Ownership should be the logbook. Really, not receipt.
No. Logbook, it may need to be verified, many things, but the sure thing, you've bought it, it's yours. Okay, where's the receipt?
Well, nobody's squeaky clean, that's for sure. And I think you pick up dirt, especially if you're in politics, as you go up the ranks. By the time you're an MP, you've done a few things that you can be done in for, I suppose.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Interesting story here. I was just looking at a student in court for hawking digital standards. So he allegedly took a newspaper's online edition and sold it on social media. A university student has been charged with converting the Standard online newspaper to PDF and selling it to the same public. So must be very popular, this Standard online edition, if it's selling. That's Sylvan Zomondi, 23. He's an IT student at Pwani University. He was charged yesterday with infringing copyrights of the Standard newspaper, and he appeared before the Chief Magistrate, Heston Nyaga. So he unlawfully made soft copies with the intent to defraud, which he falsely purported to have been issued by the Standard Group. completely unnecessary, if you ask me, in terms of
But taking him to court?
taking him to court. And
what are you saying? That's fighting entrepreneurship?
Absolutely. I mean, these are the little things that can sort of trigger off revolt when somebody's just trying to make it, trying to earn a buck. We spoke about it the other day when we talked about report writing.
So if somebody...
And whether it was legal or not, somebody's making money from it. Copyright infringement is the least of our worries as Kenyans, let's be honest. And it's so hard to enforce the laws because, I mean, I do it all the time. You download music without the copyright.
Yes, but the copyright owner has invested heavily on this, right? And that's why you see all the time, you see crackdown on copyright.
I don't think with the standard, and I really shouldn't be arguing against the standard, given I work here.
Imagine the standard has invested on actually rolling out this platform.
Absolutely, but it's not,
and then just no
these
sooner
students
had you rolled out
he's selling the paper to or getting the soft copy from. I doubt they make a dent in the standard's profits, Eric. It's completely unnecessary. If you ask
the
me.
principle of it.
Absolutely, I agree with that. But with courts, this is the beauty of having a jury, for instance. If a jury was deciding
we don't
on
have
this
them,
case,
do we? This country?
No, we don't have a jury. I think what we do have is in the case where the sentence is a capital, you'll have more than one judge, for instance. So that sort of balances. No, actually, not more than one judge. You have a group that come in from the public.
Yes.
And sort of decide whether the judges have gone about it the right way. I'm not too sure with the Kenyan law there, but in terms of a jury reflects society's sentiments. So sometimes you'll find they'll acquit somebody even in the face of a lot of evidence because there's something unjust about it, or society's changing sufficiently so that it's no longer a crime. We had that story. There was a granny in the UK who was convicted of selling cakes laced with marijuana, and she was doing this. She was doing this for her friends who had arthritis, and the marijuana supposedly helped with the arthritis.
It eases.
It eases the
discomfort.
The discomfort from arthritis. So. The evidence was there, it was very clear, but because there was a jury, they acquitted her, and the judges had to go along with this decision. Of course, that then sets precedent in that nobody else can be convicted of the same crime if the material facts are the same. So with a jury, you get to reflect the sentiments of society. It's a cross-section of society who actually decide on the case. And I think if we did have a jury in this case, because there's something intuitively and instinctively unjust about this. It's a 23-year-old student, and what he's done is he's sold some copies of the Standard online, and he's peddled them as if he were the one working at the Standard Group. So yes, maybe nothing more than a slap in the wrist.
Impersonation.
A lot of things. Now let's cross over to Kibra actually, because we are seeing KTN News is live there, and let's just pick a feed of what's happening there now. Right now, interviewing Junaid Mohammed, is the director of elections for ODM.
Has been largely seen as a last stroke for NASA. Is it going to survive this time?
I think the bigger issues that are facing NASA about funding and those things, it will be sorted out in other forums. But in terms of elections, you can see the dominant party in this area is ODM. You can see ANC candidate barely got 5,000 votes. The fourth changer candidate has only 260 votes. 260 people only voted for him. So they should have taken cognizance of that and supported ODM in this constituency if they wanted NASA to be strong. But now that they didn't see that and they have seen the results, I think they'll come back to their senses, and maybe this can be now an avenue for NASA to come back together, reason and work together. The other issues you've mentioned, we will sort them out at appropriate time. But in terms of Kibra constituency, the Kibra people have spoken loud and clear. They have told all and sundry that this is an ODM zone, including the NASA affiliate parties.
Thank you very much. Sunnaist Member of Parliament, Honorable Junaid Mohammed, also the Director of Elections for the ODM party. As I mentioned earlier, we now expect the returning officer to just announce the final results of this particular race. So what you're seeing on your screen now, the final deliberations, final compilation of the numbers. We have the provisional results that put Okoth Bernard Otieno at 24,636 votes win, McDonald Mariga at 11,230. But I'd quickly like to have a word with the chief agent. He has been the man on the ground for a few days now. We've seen him since 5 a.m. in the morning. Honorable TJ Kajwang, just quickly have a word with us just before we wrap it up and take it back to studio. As a chief agent, how do you feel? What are your general views about how this particular by-election has been conducted by the IEBC?
Well, I feel I have achieved what I set to do, which was to deliver this election. I've also learned a lot in the process of this election, that Kibra has come of age. Kibra in 2007 is very different from Kibra you saw yesterday. This means that generally the voting population has come to realize what it takes to have good leaders. I saw them withstand pressure of bribery and corruption. I saw them, go along with those people who are giving out money, but they chose to vote with their conscience. So this is a development that I think many voters will progressively adopt, and it's good for Kenya. But I've also seen a thinking which is coming up, collection of minds in the political dispensation, which is going to unite Kenyans' thinking. This began from the swearing in of the people's president and gave birth to the handshake. And so there is a coalition that is coming very clearly as we see it in the political space, which is not talking about political leadership as such or occupying political offices, but to think about how the nation can be together. It's a patriotic gesture, and I think we need to encourage it.
Talking about the handshake team, do we expect the birth of a political party out of this?
Well, your guess is as good as mine. In fact, you might as well, it is clear that the terrain is really one or the other. But as the person who midwifed this handshake, I'm very happy that what we set out to do is still being done. I wish Okoth well. He's a young man, and he's going to pull through his brother's shoes. And when he comes, we will welcome him and show him how to walk in Nairobi. There's a lot of thorns in Nairobi, but he's a very humble guy, and I think he will do Kibra proud.
There were allegations of bribery, violence throughout the day yesterday while residents of Kibra were casting their ballots. What do you have to say about this, and do you think they in any way affected this mini poll?
Well, on a light note, I think it is good it happened. Kibra people are now richer. There is a lot of inflation in Kibra. And I'm glad that they chose to vote their conscience. But it is something which is worrying. There is a political class that is oiled and is moneyed, that thinks that 1 inch is just about how much. It's just a bunch of people in the market. This thinking must stop. People must be deeper. We start thinking about people as holistic and spiritual people. You see, all ethics were thrown the window, and people used state machinery and state resources, to campaign, and openly in the view of the media, and they were not ashamed about it. But now that it is done, I'm sure that the country has seen, and it happened in Uganda too, and in the by-elections which were in Northeastern too. I think people now know that it is one thing to give out money, but it's another to win elections. And we will find out in process of time where this money came, and you know what we will do.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for speaking to us.
This is the Situation Room that we have been getting a feed from KTN News, talking to the ODM chief agent, TJ Kajwang, who's also an MP, of course. He was talking about what the lessons that they've picked out from this particular exercise, where Imran Okoth is expected to be announced and declared as the winner any moment from now. And of course, earlier they also spoke to the ODM Director of Elections. This is the Situation Room. It's 25 minutes to 7 o'clock. Let's take a look at what's happening on the roads. Good morning.
spice up your life. Traffic.
All right. It's already 24 minutes to 7 and things are happening on the road already. Thika Road traffic jam starts at Rosters, Lower Kabete Road. Matatus and drivers and touts are roughing up civil and harassing passengers and drivers. So act with speed. This is what somebody's asking the DCI. Please do something. Wild traffic Wayaki Way jam starts at Kabete coming all the way to Nairobi. 5 casualties and 2 of them feared dead, including a musician on Mombasa Road this early morning. We'll be getting details of that. This is what's being reported on social media. Mombasa Road traffic situation can be managed by doing away with the GM Matatu pickup and drop of points. Somebody is actually commenting on that and saying, well, let's actually start working with this. Mombasa Road at Simba Cement traffic is flowing good both lanes. That's at Simba Cement coming towards Nairobi. Let us know anything that's happening on the road wherever you are. 0719 012 600. That's 0719 012 600. Good morning.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Kenya's biggest conversation. We have Eric Latif, Jerry Thorne, and Siti Muga. Our sister Nduoko is
she's got
unwell
a
this morning. She's
Be
got a
honest.
sore throat. She's unwell this morning, so she's not able to actually come in and talk for 4 hours.
Or do the traffic, which she does in
Or
this
do the traffic, which-
brilliant Nigerian
Imagine.
pigeon.
So Kibra by-election, we've seen what's happened. We are waiting for, of course, the returning officer to declare Imran Okoth as the winner. The people who are in that room right now are only ODM leaders, of course. And you've heard how they're gloating and saying, we heard from the director of elections saying, well, look, ODM is actually a big party here. Look at the kind of votes that the other parties got. And we were looking at, we've been talking about, the battle between ODM and Jubilee, the wing of Jubilee, that's led by, of course, the deputy president. And we were saying, all right, so it's going to be a tough one coming out.
So what does
Do
this
you
win
think it's
mean?
tough?
What does it
It
portend?
means a number of things. I mean, it's a win for a number of people. It's also a win for Ruto. I mean, to field a candidate and get the sort of support he got. He had no support in that zone, remember. People didn't talk about Ruto. So he's fielded a candidate. He got, I think it was over 11,000 votes?
Mm-hmm.
Those are 11,000 more votes to the kitty when it comes to the national vote that he didn't have. I'm not saying they'll necessarily vote that way when it comes to it, but in terms of name recognition in Kibra now, he's made his name there. It's also, I think, a win for democracy that, Jubilee or a party outside ODM could go and campaign with very little sort of resistance in terms of violence from Kibra. Of course, they're notorious for fighting off any suggestion against ODM. So we saw some peaceful election. We've seen the results being announced, and that's been peaceful. I don't know how peaceful it would have been if it went against ODM. That's another question altogether. But we've seen a win there. So it's not a win-lose situation. There's a few win-win situations here. Of course, politically, what we saw is a lot of people are saying that Ruto got to see who's against him because people, of course, laid their chests bare and came out, all guns blazing. We saw the 3 Ukambani governors come out, Charity Ngilu, Alfred Mutua, Kivuta Kibwana. They came out in support of Raila. We also saw Anne Waiguru come out in support of Raila. Now, these are people who carry with them voting blocks and very sort of important and pertinent when it comes to 2022 elections. So there was the exposure of which side people are leaning on. Anne Waiguru was very sort of verbal and very explicit with her support for this ODM candidate. Now, remember, Anne Waiguru is a Jubilee, she's a Jubilee party member, very active Jubilee party member. So for her to come out expressly and state that she's supporting the ODM candidate is very telling. And of course, I think it was the, sort of final nail on the head for sort of us believing that all is well within the Jubilee party. We've known for the longest that there's 2 factions and that things haven't been going as well as would like to think, or as well as they paint out. We're constantly getting statements, especially from the DP faction, the Tanga faction, saying that everything is well, the marriage is still intact. But just by virtue of them fielding a candidate, it goes against, of course, the spirit of the handshake. So it goes against what Jubilee is trying to do as a whole. And I think this cemented our suspicions that there was some problems within Jubilee. It's now clear that there's two factions, and I think the party will eventually split. And there was talk of another party coming up that would join ODM and the Kiweleke side of Jubilee.
So we'll have a new party and a new alliance.
Well, we call them parties. Really, these are special purpose vehicles just to put people in in places of power. We don't have parties in the traditional sense like you would have Labour and
We'll have a new outfit.
Absolutely.
But ask yourself the question. This isn't something new. If Jubilee does disintegrate, it'll just be following laid out pattern that these political unions have had in this country.
The only one that's lasted really is KANU, isn't it? Stood the test of time. KANU's been around, and Moi did say we'll be around for 100 years plus.
Credit to ODM as well, by the way. Since 2005, ODM as a party still stands, and it is still visible and recognizable as a party. You know, how many years are those?
Well, Raila has led that
14
region.
years.
Raila has led that region, I think, since the death of his father in 94, 95? Was it 94 that Jaramogi Odinga passed away?
It wasn't quite so. Around that same time, even prior to his father's passing away, someone like James Orengo also held sway. And when KANU was still the force to be, Raila was resoundingly challenged. There were people like Dalmaso Tieno who were in KANU. You had people like the then mayor of Kisumu who was staunchly KANU. So he didn't have the powers that we now see him having.
When did he start having these powers? It has been continuous. I mean,
After
you can go back 20 years.
Yes, after 97.
You can go back 20 years. Whereas there's no other, maybe Kalonzo perhaps, but there's no other leader of a community that has had that sort of consistency or continuity. So what you'll find is, as a result, and we know our parties are people orientated, his party seems to have survived a long time because there hasn't been any change of leadership for that region. His parties. Well, we're talking about ODM in this
what
case.
What has been consistent is Raila himself and the support he has. Because even with the new parties, he's been able to, he's actually demonstrated he moves with the entire support system into every party.
The parties are Raila, or Raila is the party, rather.
No, I'm trying to explain.
If Raila moved from ODM today, they would flock. The flock would follow.
I'm actually explaining that that is what it appears to be now. There is no Raila and strength without the followers. This is the point I'm trying to make. Yes.
But his strength builds year on because he's also been there, the continuity. You don't have another leader of any region that has been there for that long. If you look at, say, Central, you'll find, there'd been Kibaki, that's now changed to Uhuru. We're now looking at succession in 2022. Throughout all those three blocks, 3 terms of presidency, Raila has been the leader for Nyanza and Western for the longest time.
He has had support that even his father could claim to have.
Actually, it's not just Nyanza and Western Nyanza and the coast.
Yes.
Right.
Consistently. Yes.
He's been able to galvanize them.
Yes.
I was saying
what about Raila's succession? Do we ever discuss that? Is that something he seems to be averse to? He doesn't seem to build a successor.
It's treasonable.
I don't think so. I actually don't think so, because when has the debate ever come up? Has it actually ever even arisen?
It's discussed. No, it's discussed in the corridors of power. It's discussed all the time. But he refuses to groom a successor.
Why must he groom a successor? Who groomed him?
I suppose those intrigues do exist, but his father would have groomed him. He attempted, I think, to field. If I remember, in 2017, there was talk of was it Rosemary, his daughter, being put as the ODM candidate for Kibra, and then, of course, given Ken Okoth's popularity, that was changed and. She suffered, I think, some health issues as well. So there was some indication that he could be grooming somebody for the takeover or for the succession. But we see a lot of young people come in and out of Raila's parties. We've seen, now I see Edwin Sifuna very vocal, very outgoing, very outspoken. But will Raila groom him to take over the party and over that leadership? I doubt it.
I actually see Jeanette more than.
I like Jeanette. Jeanette's really loyal. I was watching him just now. Very loyal.
Who
guy.
Raila seems to lean towards. I see him leaning towards Jeanette more than he does.
We have to remember Jeanette Mohammed being from Northeastern. Would he have the influence over what I would call Raila's bloc?
He's from Nyanza.
As he could be, but we can't overlook the fact that he's originally from Northeastern.
Yes, but remember he was elected in Migori.
He can be, absolutely. But to then lead the Luo people, another
But who do you think is
community-
leading in Migori?
No, that's different in
No,
terms
how
of...
is it
there's
different?
leadership.
I mean-
For instance, Raila doesn't have a political position other than was or is still, I don't know, leader of the opposition. He doesn't have a position in terms of as an MP or a governor, yet he is the leader of the people. So it's very different being a leader and being a political leader.
No, Jerry, you're confusing
It's
issues
very
here.
different. I'm not
You are.
confusing issues.
People have elevated Jeanette to a
Jeanette is
position of
fine as an
leadership.
MP, absolutely.
Right.
As an MP, you're not going to lord Jeanette over the Luo community.
You see, here
him
you are
being a
talking-
Somali,
And he has won.
him being a Somali,
No.
he has won
twice.
absolutely,
right?
and you will find even
and then
Indians in
Baba-
Meru. You'll find even there's an Indian who has a seat in Meru, right? Somebody of Indian origin.
There was even another one in
of which
Kisumu
now
town.
is absolutely.
The mayor.
But they're not going to be leaders
Shakil
of the
Shabir.
Luo community. Can we be realistic here?
But
they are
Jerry,
not ever going to be
why are you
leaders
speaking
of the
so
Luo community.
authoritatively about this and you speak
Because it
against
should go
what we're
without
seeing?
saying.
I mean, how
No,
do-
this is what I'm saying.
How
It's-
do you
it's-
come out and make statements like it goes without saying? He can't do this, and it's done.
You are telling
He's
me
a two-term MP in Migori, which is predominantly
Absolutely,
Luo.
and what I've
He's
said,
now at a position of director of elections
Yes.
for ODM
which
party,
is fine,
right?
which is fine. But he is not going to be the leader of the Luo bloc. I will reiterate that over and over. In the same way, we have an MP of Asian or Indian origin in Meru County, in a constituency in Meru. There is no way, people in Mount Kenya are going to turn to him and say, now this is our leader. No, there's no way the Merus are going to do that.
The dynamics there are
There's-
different.
No.
You see, the
Are you
dynamics in
suggesting-
Nyanza, the
are you
dynamics in
suggesting-
Nyanza are different. So, are you saying that if Baba actually continues pushing and elevating Jeanette, the people are
He
going to
wouldn't,
revolt and
because
say,
he's more
But how
astute
do you
than
know
that.
this?
He wouldn't.
But no, but
Because there would
Jerry,
be resistance
why
from
do you
his
make
people.
such absolutist
Observe.
statements
No,
over
no,
something,
no.
And your argument is going
Look,
against
I
what
will
is
bet
evidence
you.
before us.
I will bet you any money I have in the bank that Jeanette will not be the leader of the Luo
No.
people in any foreseeable
Do you
future.
see-
Not
do you
in 20
see-
years, not in 30 years. You cannot laud a person of Somali origin over another community. We do revert back to tribe inherently. So this is what informs my assertion that no, Jeanette will not be the leader of the Luo bloc. It just won't happen.
Let me ask you a simple question. If you're talking about political leadership, who is the supreme political leader in the coastal region?
Joho, I would say, in terms
No,
of
it's Raila.
political. Oh, in the coastal region?
But that's what I said. It's Raila. Is Raila coastal?
No, he's not. They follow him as a party, but with the Luo community.
spin it.
No. Also, no. The coast is fragmented. There's different
See,
tribes.
that's a spin.
It's
And
not
which
spin. These are the
community?
reasons.
And which community in
The
Kenya
coast-
does not have a diversity
No,
of tribes?
hold on. The coast is fragmented. There's there's the Mijikenda, then there's also different religions as well, so they're not as cohesive as, say, the Luo bloc per se. And the coast has been known to shift from one way to another. They shift politically, not tribally. So it's very different. Jeanette is a political leader. He's not a tribal leader. Luo, what's his name? Raila is a tribal leader and also political because he gets his support in
you
the
said
coast.
tribal is negative.
It is.
So Raila is a?
He's a tribal
He's an
leader.
ethnic.
He's an ethnic leader. Well, he's a leader of a community, an ethnic community. Jeanette will never, ever take over Raila. Simple as that.
We'll come back and discuss that. And actually, I'll ask you, what if Baba actually says Jeanette Tosha? Do you see Nyanza saying no? Right? This is the situation. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. This morning, we are waking up to the news that, of course, Imran Okoth is going to be declared winner of the Kibra by-election. And that's what we're looking at, what it means for Raila, what it means for William Ruto, what it means for Jubilee, what it means for NASA, what it means for the handshake as well, and what it means for national politics going into 2022. Good morning. It's 10 minutes to 7.
mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
So yesterday was not a day without drama in Kibra, of course. A lot happened. We saw people carrying stones. We saw people complaining here and there, but it was also largely
Who
peaceful.
was carrying stones?
Dr. Boni Khalwale had to hold some stones. I don't know why.
There's images going around of him carrying some seriously heavy stones.
So let's hear a recap of what happened yesterday from KTN News, and this is the reporter Chris Teru.
It was D-Day for the over 118,000 registered voters in Kibra constituency to decide who will represent them for the next 2 years in the 12th Parliament. All the polling stations opened exactly 6 a.m. without major hitches, despite the low voter turnout experienced in majority of the polling stations. But with time, tension in some of the polling stations started to build. Agents affiliated to the ruling Jubilee Party clashed with their rivals in ODM Party, accusing each other of bribing voters. Police were forced to intervene and quell the situation. And when matters got out of hand, former Kakamega Senator Boni Khalwale, and who was one of the agents for MacDonald Mariga, the Jubilee candidate, and who had been robbed of his mobile phone, resulted to the rule of the jungle.
Ni jambo la kusikitisha sana kama viongozi ambao wako katika bunge letu la kitaifa ndio wako kipaumbele kwa kuonga wananchi ambao wako na akili zao timamu wa kuweza kuchagua kiongozi ambao wanataka.
Kuna hiyo kudanganyia watu ati kwamba wananunua watu, wanalipa watu wakuje kupiga kura. Hiyo ni mbinu ya ODM waanze violence. Sasa Wakenya ama wana Kibra wasikuwe na taswishi kwa hiyo mambo ya hiyo ati watu wanalipwa pesa wapi. Hiyo ni propaganda na wanataka kuanza violence.
I would want to urge those who've been given money to bribe people for their safety and security. Let them not try, because we have the wananchi are very vigilant.
At some point, the dreaded anti-riot police were called for reinforcement.
But we have competitors who did not have a vision to sell to the people of Kibra, and now they are coming with the violence. You see them roaming around with young people, with the motorbikes, all over, threatening, they're beating out people.
We know there are people running around with bags of... I've just met Nixon Korir here. I've given him a warning. I've told him we are watching you keenly. And he told me he has returned the money back to the owner.
At least 3 people were arrested by the public before being handed over to the police after being accused of bribing voters.
And they are targeting where women are so as to intimidate voters using violence.
We are confident with IBC, but you know, with our competitors, they're always crybabies. So it's not new. If they don't do that, then we don't have an election. They have to, anytime they're losing.
However, the violence in some of the polling stations did not stop voters and their candidates from exercising their democratic right. ANC candidate Eliud Owalo, who was accompanied by the party leader Musalia Mudavadi, cast his ballot at Old Kibra Primary. A few minutes later, the ODM candidate Bernard Imran Okoth voted at the same polling station before his party leader Raila Odinga, accompanied by members of his family, arrived to cast their ballot.
Naendelea vizuri, isipokuwa hapo awali mashini ilikuwa imekoma. Haikuwa inafanya kazi, nikangojea kama dakika 15-20 hivi. Lakini sasa najua itaendelea vizuri.
We are in our bedroom, and I want to urge our people to protect our bedroom against infiltration by strangers and outsiders.
The widow to the immediate former Kibra MP, the late Ken Okoth, was also present to exercise her democratic right. The locals have high expectations on the candidate who will successfully be elected to succeed the late Ken Okoth.
Kazi kwa vijana. Vijana wengi hatuna kazi. Vijana tuko tu tumekaa tu, watu wako na makaratasi, mtu umesoma lakini una kazi.
aangalie maslahi ya wakina mama na aangalie maslahi ya Kibera, sababu kuna sehemu zingine Kibera hata hatuna choo, sehemu zingine hatuna taa, akikuja tushughulikia hata upande wa maji.
The winner in this by-election is expected to be announced officially by Friday morning. Chris Dairo, KTN News.
Well, so yeah, that was it. Just a complete recap of the day, the drama, the back and forth. I found someone, I told him return the money, and he's told me he's returned the money to the owner.
I wonder who the owner is.
Oh, how much
well, I wonder if he actually said that.
and the guy actually came and told him, yeah, I've returned the money to the owner.
I've
really,
been to politicians. Back, basically.
Politicians, really. But we saw what was happening there. So, well, the whole issue was ODM versus Jubilee.
No.
The ODM MPs and Jubilee MPs were there aplenty. There was a leader of ANC.
There was also
Did
Jubilee
we see the leader
MPs
of Fort
on
Kenya?
ODM's side. You've got to be very careful here. It was more ODM versus Tanga Tanga. I mean, we've seen Jubilee governors support ODM here. So you can't say this was a match of Jubilee versus ODM. We've got to be very clear. It was ODM versus Tanga Tanga, and ODM beat them. There was no Jubilee there. The president would have endorsed this. He's the leader of the party.
You know,
he was never seen campaigning.
It was handshake versus Jubilee.
If it quacks like a duck, it has webbed feet, and it seems to swim in water. It's a duck.
It probably is a duck, absolutely.
Yes. Now, in this particular case, we are splitting hairs.
We're splitting parties. There's no hairs we're splitting here. It's quite clear.
Tanga Tanga, Kieleweke, Jubilee.
No. This was
they are both Jubilee.
We can't overlook this.
The party
this
was
very
Jubilee.
telling.
No, what are you saying no for?
This was very telling
What
that
are
there
you
is
saying
no
no for?
party such as Jubilee in existence anymore, because you had very prominent people from that so-called party.
You have people who are
supporting
in Jubilee
different
who have left the party.
No, they
There
have
are
not
people
left
who
the
are in
party.
Jubilee who
And
are
Waigoro has
in-
not left Jubilee.
She is supporting
Jubilee. It
She's
doesn't
suppo-
mean she's left Jubilee.
But you just said
And when
you are
you see
likely
the
to see a new outfit.
the leader
No,
of
she has
the
said
party,
the party Jubilee doesn't exist.
It's there.
Yes, but it's there.
No, it's
What is it?
In name, but in terms of
Jerry,
as a party
Jerry,
who
you
have
said we are likely to see
aligned goals
we are
and
likely
aspirations.
to see a new
no,
vehicle
Jubilee does not
emerging
exist.
out of the Kieleweke side and joining up with ODM to form a new alliance. All right, Jubilee will be left.
No, Jubilee won't exist without the
Intact.
Kieleweke or TNA side of things. It's no longer Jubilee. You can call it URP if you like, but it's no longer Jubilee. I think this platform served to inform us what's going on, who's on whose side. And we saw Commander come out and say he's supporting ODM. Now, he's a very outspoken member of the Jubilee Party. We saw Morade do the same. We saw Anne Waigoro do that. Now, if the party is not the people, who is the party? What is the party if it's not these prominent people? And very importantly and notably was the fact that we didn't see the president campaign for Mariga at any point. We did not see him on the ground in...
Campaign for anyone.
For anybody. Well, he would have been campaigning for his candidate if Mariga really was his candidate. The president kept well away from this because he
How
knew
many by-elections have we
it
had since 2013? How many have we seen the president campaigning?
The president will come out and actually
No,
endorse
How many have we seen?
Simple
a
question.
candidate. No, I don't have that off the top of my head.
We
Do
can
you?
tell you, yes, none.
Yes.
We've had no by-elections.
We've
since
had by-elections, but we have not seen the
we have
president
not
going
seen
to
the
campaign in
president. Which by-elections have we had? And we can look into that.
Many.
Which ones?
Even the one we were talking about the other day for the Jubilee versus, the Jubilee side, yes, versus the KANU and Pesa Mashinani and all.
Which
Right.
Which
Look,
by-election?
Jerry.
No, which by-election
the
have
one
we
in
had
Kericho.
within Jubilee? Yes,
The
and
one
we
in
saw
Kericho.
yes,
No,
but
no,
we have to
no, no.
understand the
This is a
dynamics there are
situation room.
different. They're
It's Kenya's
regional.
biggest conversation. It's 7 o'clock.
We're coming back to this.
Spice up
All
your
right,
life.
Nduoko is not in the studio, so I'm going to tell you what's happening on the road. Mombasa Road from GM towards Bellevue to Nyayo Stadium in Asonga Kusonga. Good morning. How's Langata Road? Let us know how Langata Road is doing if you have anything to tell us. Kiambu Road, Mwendo ni Teke all the way till Hapo CID. It's snaking all the way till and then joining the superhighway, but clear after Pangani Underpass along Muranga Road until town. but it's a very cold morning this morning. That's what somebody's saying. Thika Road, of course, we've seen that the traffic starts at Allsops. Of course, that whole area is notorious every morning. Traffic from Allsops. We also know that Wayaki Way coming into town, traffic starts from Uthiru coming all the way to town, from Kangemi actually coming to town. Jogoo Road, how's Jogoo Road moving? Jogoo Road has been moving smoothly in the last half hour. How is it now? It looks like it's starting to build up, but that's the situation on the road anyway, every morning on Jogoo Road. Mombasa Road, like we've said. So when we start from GM, it seems to be moving in areas beyond the GM. It has started to build up. Let us know if you see anything that we need to report. 0719 012 600. That's 0719 012 600. Good morning.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have Jerry Thorne, lawyer, political strategist, an insider in the corridors of power, ready to take on any side of the debate with her signature eloquence and grit. C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your
2
day.
minutes after 7. Good morning and how are you doing? Welcome. This is The Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. We'll be opening up the phone line so we can join in this conversation at looking at what happened in Kibra yesterday. 0719 012 600. That's 0719 012 600. So we know that Imran Okoth is about to be declared the winner in Kibra. We have our crew from KTN News down there in Kibra constituency. We'll be linking in with them live when that announcement is being made. So just stand by for that. Also, we know that in the middle of the night, Mr. McDonald Mariga conceded. He called the winning candidate and he conceded. And this is what he told him when he called.
Yes, hello boss. Salama. Ni Mariga eh? Nimepiga nikwambia congratulations. Asante. Kabisa. Resi imekuwa poa. Thank you. Hatukupigana mambo popote, meeting tulikuwa pamoja. Asante. Yes, niko ready hata kwa lunch kile utataka. Asante. Na pia support yote unataka kwangu, niko ready. Tutakuwa pamoja. Si ndio? Sasa hiyo mambo ya after elections sisi tunarudi ile live yetu ya mabesha na kila kitu. Kabisa sana. Okay, thank you.
Sindio?
It's an interesting one, this, because it was never about Mariga or Okoth. These are people that weren't very well known to the constituents. Okoth, of course, somewhat. He had headed the CDF fund under his brother's leadership. But Mariga, other than being known as a footballer, an international footballer, wasn't regarded by the people of Kibra as one of their own. And you saw some resistance, actually, when he was being accused of not having been registered in that constituency. So he, wasn't born and brought up there as far as people are concerned. So nobody knew Mariga as a politician or leader. The person that was fielding him, Ruto, of course, is who is well known, and the person or the head of ODM under which Okoth comes under, Raila. That's where the battle was in terms of politically and in terms of significance and in terms of for 2022. Now, I highlighted, or I think it's important we note that the fact that we did not see the president, Uhuru Kenyatta, who of course is the leader of the Jubilee Party, we did not see him involve himself in any of the campaigns. There was no actual explicit and expressed support of the so-called Jubilee candidate, is indicative of the fact that perhaps this was one-sided in terms of this was a candidate being fielded by Ruto alone. Now, just before we went into the break, or we went into that clip we were listening to, Eric mentioned, but there's been a by-election, for instance, in Kericho, and we didn't see the president there. Well, that's quite different. That's a regional area, and it's actually Ruto's bedroom, so to speak. And we saw the amount of work Ruto had to do on the ground because there was some resistance to Jubilee in terms of from parties such as Chama Shinani and so forth, and KANU as well. So we did see Ruto there, but you weren't going to see the president. This is not his backyard. Nairobi, of course, is very different. First of all, it's very cosmopolitan in that it's not a tribal base per se when it comes to Kibra. But also, we should have seen Uhuru here if he was interested in this candidate, if he was genuinely behind this candidate. Because if you look at the caliber of leaders that were there, with Raila and so on, this was the head of the party for ODM. So you should have seen the head of our party, of Jubilee, if he was seriously behind this candidate. So it's worth noting his absence. It was very deliberate, very intentional, and very telling. It's telling us that there's two factions here. I wasn't in support of this. And of course, we all know in the backdrop of the handshake, fielding a candidate from Jubilee creates a rift. That's not what we're trying to do.
So you're saying Uhuru has abandoned Jubilee?
No, but do we have
No. Stop spinning my words. I'm saying.
Do we have any evidence of the president
there are two factions.
Do we have any evidence of the president ever being involved in any by-election? Ever? Have we any such evidence?
Have we? We've had him endorse. I think it was. Kabete after Waitito. He endorsed Kabete.
But then he endorsed
for
Mariga.
Waitito. He did not endorse Mariga, and he was not there. There was a photo opportunity
what
where
he
was
wasn't
at.
there.
No.
We saw pictures of him.
Exactly what happened, and I understood this completely. There was a
And in
photo
State
opportunity
House.
that was
You can't say
magnified.
it was a place that
Remember
the
the
president was
presidency. The presidency, i.e., including the DP, can go to State House and you can come with your candidate. If he was serious about endorsing Mariga, we would not be having this question. It would not be in doubt.
Jerry,
he would have come out and said it.
Some
Whereas we
facts,
saw
some
people
facts.
who are known to
we
be...
saw the president. We saw the president giving Mariga
a hat.
The hat.
Now that was a photograph, and I
shaking hands.
consider it a photo opportunity that was
Number two.
magnified.
Of course, we saw it because there was a photograph taken, but Mariga was there.
The president was in State House. That's where he lives. That's where we put him up, right? And that's where he also works from. So we can't say that he was ambushed.
Why would his support for Mariga be ambiguous if it was genuinely there? Why would we be discussing
ambiguous.
it? It is ambiguous.
No.
Why wasn't the
But
president
we're
out
saying
there?
The president
No.
never supports anybody publicly.
No. He will support a member of his party who is running. And then when you see people who are very close to the president, such as Anne Waigoro, coming out and stepping very boldly on a platform and saying, actually, I am supporting ODM, then you know for a fact where the president stands.
No,
we cannot ignore the fact that
close.
No, you can
They're
you can
exposing
ignore
themselves.
no. You cannot ignore his absence in these campaigns. It's very
But
telling.
when has he been present ever?
He has been. I've just given you an example.
You
for
haven't.
Waitito's Kabete, when there was a by-election in Lower Kabete.
What did he do?
Waitito, he spoke out, and we will find that clip in the break. He spoke out and said, this is our candidate. This is who we want. Yeah? Unlike in this
All
case.
right.
Here,
Let
he
me
should have been
concede
there.
and say
he should
said
have been
so.
there.
But beyond saying it, what else did he do?
There's nothing here that he has even said. He has not come out and said, I support this candidate.
I mean-
Why not? This is the leader of the party. It is very telling. Omission is commission in this case.
No.
By not supporting
This
Mariga,
one,
he has come out and
this one
said, this is
can't-
not my candidate.
Jerry, this one can't actually be spun.
It's not being spun. This is the truth of the matter, my
When
friend.
the leader of the party meets with the candidate for the party, right?
What does that signify?
He met with a lot of candidates. This was a photo opportunity
Did
that
he
was
meet-
magnified.
Did he meet with the opposition
This
candidates?
was a photo opportunity that was magnified.
He met with a candidate
And in the
for
backdrop,
the party.
let's not ignore the backdrop of the handshake. Uhuru was not going to be seen fielding and supporting a candidate that goes against ODM. With the handshake sentiments, that would be going against the spirit of what they're trying to achieve.
So then why would, as you say correctly, Anne Waiguru and the like now were representing him?
They were supporting ODM.
So were they speaking for the president?
Absolutely. In
Why did he go?
my view.
Why didn't he go?
Why didn't he go to support Raila
Yes,
himself? Diplomacy, I would say there. To go and stand with Raila, there's an element of diplomacy.
What
What diplomacy?
The handshake is not a secret deal.
It's not a secret deal, but he's not going to get involved in the politicking and the ground. So
he's a party leader first of all. If he really did not want his party to participate in this, why did...
There's things he doesn't want. He hasn't been wanting people to tanga, but they still do it. So my contention today is that he was not behind this. It goes against the spirit of the handshake.
Twisted.
Not arm twisted. This
Is
guy, people are doing this. No, this is evidence. No, this is evidence that there are two factions.
Yes.
No, I haven't said that. I have not. When have I said that?
Is the president?
No. What I've said is that there's two factions clearly emerging within Jubilee.
Of the party?
There's two
party leader.
Yes,
is he in control of the party?
He is, but there's a splinter group coming out. There's two factions here clearly.
So why does he expressly support the splinter group by actually welcoming them to State House?
They can go to State House. The party still won. There's issues, but this is now more obvious, and it makes it very clear that the divorce is imminent.
But this is a very clear one that is showing there's a splinter. Why would he stand there and be and have photos of him taken with the splinter group?
And wasn't one photograph?
Yes, it was. Mariga went to State House once.
Yeah, but there are many photos.
No, there would be no discussion. If Uhuru supported this candidate and supported Jubilee fielding a candidate, he would have been there. There would be no discussion we're having such as this. He would have been there in his support. It wouldn't have been one photo opportunity that's been magnified and amplified and blown out of proportion to suggest that Uhuru was supporting this. Everybody has spoken about this as DP and Raila. It hasn't been Uhuru and Raila. This is not a Jubilee Party initiative.
If there was no photo op, as you call it, indeed, as you say correctly, there would have been no discussion.
A photo op is not support. A photo op can be used for so many things. A photograph can be spun.
No. That was a photo of a Jubilee candidate in State House.
He could have been coming to say, "I've joined Jubilee." Fantastic. Here we go. I endorse you to join Jubilee, and then
the president was caught unawares. Was like, "Oh no,
it's blown out of proportion."
Was that the guy?
The moment you say people want to tanga,
it's more than clear.
Or the president doesn't want people to tanga, and yet they tanga. And then you have somebody who comes to State House, and the president doesn't really want him at State House. Then you are asserting that the man is helpless.
No, what I'm asserting here, what I'm saying, the president has been otherwise focused in development, in matters development. He hasn't been politicking. We've seen that. He's actually asked people around the country, let's stop this tangaing, let's stop the rallying, the electioneering mode that we're in as a country. It's not good for us economically.
So he's chosen
it doesn't
not to
give us political. No, he's not politicking. I'll be totally honest with you.
He's focused. Not campaigning for
he's focused on development.
Because he's chosen not to politic.
No, in an instance where there is an actual by-election, now that is not politicking for the sake of it. It is the constitution that forces us to have to choose a leader after the death of or
the constitution.
So that is not politicking for the sake of it. The constitution, the constitution allows us or makes us. We're mandated by the constitution to elect another leader in the situation one passes away. So that's very different. That is something that is part of the procedure, part of democracy. Now, outside that, the electioneering mode that the country has been in, the rallying that we've seen with, for instance, the DP, is not what the president has been doing. He's focused on development projects. You're not seeing him going around the country doing different rallies and garnering support and talking 2022 politics. He has been quite explicit and said, can we leave 2022 politics out of this?
But he doesn't need to talk politics. He's not going to be president again after 2022.
But he can have a say in who will be.
For his legacy as well.
And he might be prime minister. Who knows?
Do you know, when you talk about someone just focusing on development, is there any agenda that speaks of politicking more than development?
No, it's the other way. There is an overlap in terms of the narratives can crisscross, because what happens is politicians will use development. But when you're talking development, you don't have to be politicking. So they can be an overlap, but they're not interchangeable per se.
If you're a politician, almost every utterance that comes out of your mouth is politics.
Absolutely, and you can be politicking about development, but that's not what the president is doing. The president is focused on development and not doing any politicking. So the two can be an overlap, but they're not interchangeable per se.
So there are factions, Jerry, in Jubilee.
I think that's pretty clear. It's not
pretty
something,
clear.
Yeah.
And Ruto is leading one faction.
Well, yes, the tanga.
And Uhuru does not belong to his faction.
Does not belong to whose faction?
To Ruto's faction.
I wouldn't have thought so, no.
So
I think the
is Uhuru leading the other faction?
I would say so, but you see that's
So Uhuru
no, by de
Uhuru is
facto,
walking out
not
of
by choice.
Jubilee.
No. Remember, I said Uhuru is not politicking; he's otherwise focused on development, and this is why people are doing. There's all sorts going on within the party, and he's saying, "Look, let's just stay together and focus on development." But because people want to run their own campaigns and do their own things, as we've seen with fielding a candidate in Kibra, it goes against the spirit of what the party is trying to do. The party is trying to unite Kenyans, and of course you'll create some division between the two communities that are trying to be united by BBI, amongst other initiatives by the BBI. But by fielding a candidate in Kibra, I think you do go against the sentiments of the BBI. So that tells you if Uhuru is behind the BBI, then logic follows he will not be wanting to field a candidate in Kibra because it goes against the spirit of the BBI.
This is a situation room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. We are discussing the results of yesterday's by-election in Kibra constituency. We are waiting for the returning officer to officially declare Imran Okoth as the winner of that. We already have seen Jubilee candidate McDonald Mariga calling Imran and conceding defeat, which is also something we can discuss, actually, where a candidate has actually called the other one and said, you know what, guy, congratulations, you've done very well, and I'm willing to work with you going forward. Phone lines are open, 0719 012 It's a political Friday this morning.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
What was interesting as well, and we haven't mentioned CT, I don't know if you noticed, but somebody very popular in Nairobi who's managed to garner apparently previously about 800,000 votes in Nairobi, Sonko was missing from this arena.
He was otherwise occupied.
Doing what? The ACC? No, I mean, the election period has been for, we're going on to almost 3 months now, and we haven't seen Sonko surface in these politics and lean or align himself with either Raila or Ruto. So it's very telling.
What is it?
Given that he's very popular in Nairobi, and he would have some sway in, he'd definitely be a good political tool for Kibra. Is there a phone call coming in, Eric?
We have Alan. Alan is calling in from Nairobi. Good morning, Alan.
Good morning, Eric.
Welcome to the Situation Room. Jerry Thorne and CT Muga in the studio today. Ndu is not in today, unfortunately.
It's okay. Now, I want to talk about Raila succession politics.
Yes.
Now, you see, you people are talking about Raila. Now, Raila is a very, very. I want to talk about him as a very tricky person here. You see, we had someone by the name Miguna, who Raila actually sent out of the country because Raila knew that this guy was becoming a threat against him.
Raila sent him out of the country.
Yes, Raila did actually. Raila had an hand.
Did Raila also take his passport while sending him away?
Now this is it, yeah? Raila had got the powers of him actually holding the Guna's hand and bringing him into the country, from JK into the country. But because Raila knew that this would mean a death sentence to his career, he never did that. Then we have got somebody the name of Evans Kidero, who at some point was gaining popularity in the South Nyanza region. But Raila decided to hold his hand up over the same. So when we are talking of Raila and him choosing someone to succeed him, it's like we are waiting for water to maybe trickle out of a stone. That will never happen. Raila is that kind of a candidate who will let somebody die than him endorse him.
Right.
Then secondly, let's talk Kibra, like you had said. You see, when we talk of ODM, before the elections began, ODM had cried to IBC, asking them to release the voter register. But let us think back of the nominations were held. The ODM nominations were held. there were some candidates who actually cried out and told ODM to bring out the voters register so that the candidates could go through the voter register and see who were to vote.
Right.
ODM actually refused to bring out this voter register.
Mm-hmm.
Now hii ndio ile unasikia kuwa mkuki kwa nguruwe na kwa binadamu ni mchungu. That ODM was actually coaxing IBC to do what itself could not do. I believe that ODM has won the election, yes, but it should learn from what it wanted, that next time people ask over the same, they should actually be ready to give the same. Thank you.
Asante sana, Alan.
Thank you.
0719-012-600. That's 0719-012-600. We're talking about the Kibra by-election and what it means, what we can translate from this, the results.
Yeah, I think we can't ignore the fact that we didn't see Sonko get involved in this. He's clearly very popular, especially with the youth, and he would have been able to influence matters in
Actually, why do you suppose he didn't?
Now, this is the thing. I don't think he's doing very well with Jubilee at the moment. Or it could just be that he's not part of the Tanga Tanga team. I mean, there's a lot of reasons.
Well, we know he's not part of the Tanga Tanga and he's not part of Kieleweke.
So he's not Jubilee at all.
he has his own movement, another faction within Jubilee.
Which
Remember?
is Wanjiko.
Yes,
What do they call it? The Wanjiko
yes.
movement. So that's the third sort of splinter group.
And they had a candidate that they were sponsoring during the nomination process.
Right, right.
For the handshake, who, of course, the candidate did not win. So could that be also one of the reasons why we do not see Sonko campaigning? That he didn't feel comfortable, of course, trooping with the Kieleweke side, with the what's the Anoi Guru's movement called?
Embrace.
The
That's part of it. That's the icing on the cake for the Kieleweke side.
That as well. So we have not seen Sonko at all.
We didn't see Sonko, and I think that's quite telling. Or maybe, Sonko, a lot of people are saying he's bitten off a lot more than he can chew with his governorship. So maybe he's actually focused on running and trying to run his county.
How about the Senator, Sakaja? Did we see Sakaja
No, we
at all?
didn't see Sakaja. We didn't. In fact, he was being flagged up the other day for not having voted against the cap, the tripling of the debt ceiling. He didn't actually vote against it, so he got some stick on that.
Did he vote for it?
No, it was about voting against it. So by not voting against it, you vote for it, in essence, Eric. So Sonko wasn't there. But,
I don't want to really go against the party here, but I also do not want to support directly.
No, the vote was against it, and he didn't do that. Kalonzo, of course, we also didn't see, but we did see his rivals in Ukambani come together as a coalition and collaboratively go against him. We saw Alfred Mutua and we saw Charity Ngilu and Kivuda Kibwana come and stand with Raila, which was, of course, very poignant. Now, we then saw images of Kalonzo talking to Ruto, whether those were images that have previously been taken and are now being used to spin this narrative that Kalonzo is leaning towards Ruto in 2022. I don't know, but given the circumstances, the fact that, you've got this trio not going against him, but actually usurping his power within Ukambani, I can comfortably say that because you hear that with the youth and you can see the popularity of Alfred Mutua. Given that they've come and they're taking his voter block away from him, I can see him sort of leaning towards URP.
If you gain in popularity, are you usurping someone's power, really?
Who are these people that are following you? You're getting them from somewhere, so somebody's losing somewhere. It's almost a zero-sum game.
Yes, but
if there's four people here that all support me and then one starts to support you, I have one less, so you're usurping my power.
When you say you're taking them away, you bring in, it's like some propriety. These are voters who choose to go
They're
in
numbers. Let's look at them as numbers.
But it's
when you win, somebody's losing.
Yes,
when you win,
you are. But
it's a zero-sum game.
It's a taking away that particular concept that I am actually talking about. We are speaking as though it's the politicians who determine these outcomes. And I'm saying, no. The voters have chosen to go in a certain direction.
What informs that choice? It's a politician. Let's not philosophize this. It's very easy. If I take some power away,
why do you have
you
these
lose some.
absolute statements of, let's not talk about this?
No, let's not philosophize. You're getting philosophical over something very basic, CT.
It's not basic.
It is. If I'm gaining votes from you, you are losing votes. It's a numbers thing.
No. You see,
the thing is, I think what City is saying is you're not taking away my votes.
Yes.
But I think City, you are.
Of course you are.
No,
It's,
you're not.
it's a zero-sum game.
The phrasing of it,
you can only vote
gives
for one
the
person.
politician more power than he actually has. I am saying the power is with the person who determines
has moved.
Yes, that's the only thing I'm saying.
Okay, but the power here, it crystallizes itself in the electoral position that you eventually get, or the money that you're paid to bring your voting block. So yes, spiritually and philosophically, the power can be within the voter, but the power I'm talking about here is how much power do you have to pull voters and get paid for it because you're bringing in a voting block, or actually get an elected seat. That is the sort of power I'm talking about. So yes,
let's talk about Wiper. Actually, you began talking about Kalonzo. So Wiper did not have a candidate in this election.
Remember, they
Wiper
tried,
did not campaign.
They were about to field.
And they decided where we want
which could
this
have
guy,
been a
we're going to
move.
bring him again in 2022.
Remember Prezzo?
Yeah,
they
we're
came
gonna
out
bring him
with
in
that.
2022. So
And
the
maybe
point
he was
is,
paid and told, Nana,
just
chill out. You'll be splitting my vote, whoever my would have been at the time. And so he didn't field a candidate. They decided that they were going to use.
So Wiper did not go against ODM in this one, right?
He didn't go against
ODM.
ODM.
Did not campaign against ODM.
And didn't campaign against the DP either.
And didn't campaign for ODM. So is it really right for ODM to treat Wiper the same way to treat ANC and Ford Kenya, and saying, well, this marriage of ours is over simply because the other guys have brought in candidates, they are campaigning against us, and yet here we are.
Whether it's fair or not, what we do know is that Wiper has broken off from the NASA coalition, no doubt. The fact that Raila is whining and dining his opponents in Ukambani speaks volumes.
His proteges.
No. These are his
Apart
opponents.
From
They're still fighting. No. Alfred Mutua and him don't get along. They're still fighting for control in Ukambani, and they've come together as a trio, and I think they will trump him. Now, the fact that ODM is seen with them, I was going to say is in bed with those three in the bedroom, is very telling that we have nothing to do with each other. If I'm sort of being best friends with your enemy, Eric, I think you'll get the message that you're not my tightest pal.
I'm no longer welcome here.
Yeah.
So here we are, that NASA is basically fractured. It's gone. ANC, Ford Kenya.
But you did see
Wiper.
Jeanette talking.
Who are the others?
Jeanette was talking
in
quite
the coalition?
seductively to NASA, to ANC. You're saying you're welcome back. Because if you remember the assertions and the statements that came out of Edwin Sifuna last week, whereby he was saying it's dead, this is the divorce, how dare they front a candidate. And the candidate did quite well, actually. He was third, Dowalo. He was in studio with us last week. He was sure he would win.
And how many votes did he get exactly?
Something like 6,000.
He was on the podium. He had a podium finish.
6,500. So significant. Those 41,000 or 42,000, if we round it up, votes.
He had
that
5,275 votes.
5,000, yeah. So not bad. He did okay considering.
Not bad.
No, not bad. But he didn't.
How many
win.
votes were cast altogether?
41,984 were cast.
And 5,000 as a percentage?
35.3% voter turnout, which is quite low, but of course that happens.
That's all right.
With
the by-election.
Of course, 24,000.
And then Mariga got 11,230.
5,000 as a percentage of 41,000. What is it?
You're making us do math.
He didn't do so
early
badly.
in the morning. It was a decent.
No, I liked Mr. Wallo
ANC.
and I liked. You see, the point I'm trying to make here is this.
It's about 6 or 7%. It's not the worst. So he's done all right considering.
Considering what exactly?
Well, considering he broke away from ODM and
24,000, and then you get 5,000. Really, yeah.
You're stretching it.
Yeah.
He did think he was going to win, so yeah.
No, he has to think he's going to win.
Mm.
If you're going to go into this game and you don't think you're going to win, then you shouldn't be in it.
Of course, I was of the school of thought that he was actually planted there to remove votes from ODM, but that's purely speculative. That's my political instincts.
You could be right, going by what the communications team from Jubilee has been posting overnight.
Mm-hmm. What were they saying?
I'll look for it actually. I'll read it out when we come out of the traffic break. But they're saying basically that Jubilee has gained some good ground in Kibra in this by-election. compared to 2017, the kind of votes that they got, the kind of percentage that they garnered, and the percentage that they've gotten now. But if you look at the figures, they're actually saying that they got all the other percentage. So ODM had 64%. Point something percent, and Jubilee had 36%. So it's
right. So the remaining
like
non-ODM votes, absolutely.
Everybody else
so
was
it's
Jubilee.
That's skewing the statistics to fit their narrative, of course.
Or admitting without saying
misrepresenting the statistics.
Had been our candidate.
It could be. Absolutely.
Maybe that's what they're saying. 0719-012-600. That's 0719-012-600. And of course, you can also post your Facebook comments on Spice FM KE via our hashtag on Twitter, the Situation Room. We're taking in your comments. We are waiting for the official declaration of Imran Okoth as the Kibra MP elect. And of course, then we are looking at what this means. What does this mean for NASA? What does it mean for Jubilee? What does it mean for Raila Odinga? What does it mean for the handshake? What does it mean for William Ruto? And also the other parties, ANC, Ford Kenya, Moses Wetangula, and Musalia Mudavadi, and the rest. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. It's 7:30.
Spice up your life. Traffic.
All right, so traffic in Githurai is moving. That's what somebody's saying. An accident at Nyayo 6 hours ago. That was 6 hours ago. It was actually looking grisly. That is in the middle of the night. Then Thika Road jam didn't end because people bought plots and built in Kahawa and Ruiru. That's why you have all those cars on the road this morning, because everybody has moved to the newly done Thika Road. That's what happened with the development. Accident on Mombasa Road towards Syokimau. Road closed by Boda riders with rocks. Traffic is building up, so that's what is happening if you're on that side of Syokimau. There's an accident towards Syokimau. Road closed by Boda riders, and traffic is building up. The weather today looks so gloom, but Machakos, the sun is peeping, and of course that's Mombasa Road coming towards Nairobi is looking quite heavy. How is Mombasa Road towards town this morning? I'm telling you, it's looking bad. Wayakiwe jam is building up at ABC Westlands coming towards town. Langata Road, we had asked that earlier, what's happening on Langata Road. So it's moving, although it starts building up, of course, towards the Timor roundabout. And that's also the area near Wilson Airport. Thika Road, you know how the road looks like. Kiambu Road, of course, we've got good traffic officers, so it's moving. 0719 012 600.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM,
locks
Nairobi.
Ruto out of bedroom. Of course, the bedroom talk has come into this. It's very, very interesting. Was called Raila's bedroom by Ruto, and Raila has embraced that. Of course, Kibra voters, he had the last laugh, Raila that is, because his voters heeded ODM's call to protect his stronghold from Jubilee. And Imran Okoth has beaten Mariga and ANC's Awalo. We're getting the results, the final results. Okoth garnered 24,636 votes. Jubilee Mariga's got 11,230 votes. And then Awalo ANC got 5,275 votes. Voter turnout was 35.8%. Considered pretty decent for a by-election. Of course, there's voter exhaustion and there's different factors in a by-election. You're not going to get the same turnout as you do in an election. Also, you've got to take into account that this was an MP, it was a by-election. So previously, when they were voting during the election, maybe a lot of people were also coming out to vote for the presidency, who was the leader of their party. So that could be another reason not too many people came out, that they're more interested in their presidency than their MP. It's just a possibility. These are some of the factors that can explain why voter turnout is always slightly lower in a by-election. But interesting thing is how this election, this mini poll, how it shapes out, or what it tells us about politics in 2022, the realignments that we saw. notably from Anne Waiguru stand on the podium with Raila. We saw Alfred Mutua, Charity Ngilu. We saw Kivutha Kibwana. I mean, those are major statements to make, to come out. Some of these are Jubilee diehards. They've been, there were TNA, members of TNA. They were behind the presidency in 2013. And, of course, Raila has always been the opposition. So it's a serious statement to make, to come out publicly and show your support.
In your opinion, what is this statement?
It's that I am with ODM. I am with the handshake. In the backdrop of, or what underpins my support now is...
is it I am with or I am not with?
It is I am with the handshake. And the handshake
not I am
means,
not with Ruto.
No. It has that connotation too, or rather it's Ruto not with the handshake. So if I'm with the handshake and Ruto doesn't want the handshake, then of course Ruto and whoever's with the handshake are not together either.
All these people we mention are politicians, seasoned politicians.
Absolutely.
Come 2022, Uhuru Kenyatta will no longer be president.
Of course.
And he cannot be president again. So, is it the handshake or is it their own political interests that have come to the fore?
It could be both. It could be that the handshake helps with their own political interests. I'm sure they put that into consideration. It's probably the primary consideration. And they understand that the way, the direction this country is going, we're going to listen to the people and look at the report from the BBI and go and have a referendum, and we're going to have this parliamentary system. That's what I'm behind. That's what the people are behind. And as a result, my political career lives on. So there's a lot of dynamics at play here, but then they're not standing out and telling Ruto, I am not with you. What they're saying is, we are for the handshake. That was the messaging there.
This handshake that we keep speaking of, and the alliance that has been formed by the handshake, it wouldn't really be such a big deal if it wasn't accompanied by some real power that the former Prime Minister now has. When you have a situation where cabinet secretaries report and brief him, when you have him going out and visiting foreign nations as part of a delegation that the president is in.
Remember, he does have a position as well.
Oh, I do.
Okay.
I do. I understand. And I also know very, very clearly that he has the infrastructure portfolio with the AU.
Absolutely.
That I understand. But that's not that portfolio. Would you say then, instead of making a statement, let me ask the question, would you then say that is that portfolio is what attracts CSs from giving
they have no mandate.
It gives him some legitimacy in terms of when he's making foreign visits and so on. So
but
he's not
CS
going
has to
there.
come and brief him, not because of that position.
Well, if it's to do with infrastructure, of which a lot of ministries would have something to do with infrastructure, if it's to do with Pan-Africanism, which he's involved with, then absolutely, yes, CSs should
not brief him.
Should brief him. Why not?
No,
if it's going to help with his job, why are we bringing politics into it?
He's not the only commissioner. Remember, he's not the only representative in the AU body, right? So do we see a minister reporting to the other representatives? For example, this is just infrastructure.
No, they're able to get reports. They're able to get reports, and we don't know the meetings that go on. Remember, Raila is somebody who attracts attention. He's in the limelight. So it's not to say that the other commissioners or people who work in the AU that need information from these ministries don't get the reporting and don't get the briefs. It's just that Raila being in the limelight, this is going to come to the fore, and we're going to be made aware of it as an audience that's watching out for him. Let
me open the phone lines. I have Ben is calling from Nakuru. Good morning, Ben.
Good morning, Spice FM.
Good morning, Ben.
How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Okay, I have two items I want to bring as far as Kibra for yesterday election was concerned. One, I think the headline on Standard today, they gave us that the battle was between Ruto and Raila. But the issue is this one. People have not clearly captured what Ruto was doing. He was trying to communicate to Raila as far as 2022 politics is concerned. That I will maneuver and move to any part of this country. Can you imagine when you do your statistics for 2017 election, you realize that Jubilee got a very low percentage, 13%. Now they are getting around 36%. There is a growth, but ODM, they are declining on their percentage. Now, and given that there were division again in Jubilee, there were people who are not for Ruto and supporting Raila. Another issue, you realize somebody Baba bedroom involved more two parties so that he can win that seat, which means there was great tension there. So, in other words, we can say that it is not yet done. It is a threat to him that come 2022 things will be very hard. So I think for my side, I can say that Jubilee, they have done their best despite their loss, but there is a clear communication to people, to ODM in general, to ODM general. Otherwise,
Ben, we've had two by-elections prior to this one. There was one in Embakasi, another one in Ugenya, and ODM lost both those by-elections. So if we're to go by the assertions you're making, then it would be clear that ODM has been on the decline. So if we're to follow that logic, they should have lost the Kibra vote because they are on the decline and the other parties are actually ascending to greater power. How would you explain this anomaly?
No, now, you see, that is why I'm telling you that there is a great problem there. So simply because the coming of Waikuru, the coming of what we call Kitui governor and Mutua, and given that Kalonzo was silent, so there is a problem. So what is happening now? The ODM, they need to come back and lay their strategies again. In terms of politics, you cannot invite somebody and start kicking out. Like the issue of NASA now, we are seeing NASA is dead. So it means now they need to come up their strategies because now they're dealing with their partners. They are not healthy at all. They are not healthy at all. But Jubilee now, you see, despite their division inside there's a communication also, because how can you get half of the votes, 10,000, and given that there were some threats over there, LDM, they used all means, like the issue of Simbarati using some goons there to threaten, and that's why the voters turn out to be low, because people, they fear their business. People fear their lives.
Ben, thank you for your contribution. Let me bring in Otieno, who's in Nairobi. Good morning, Otieno.
Morning. How are you guys?
We're good.
Now, we were telling people, I'm a voter in Kibra, to be precise, Joseph Tengere, and all the time people would say Baba's bedroom is under threat, and we kept on telling them there's no such thing. When you're talking about Kibra, don't lie to yourself. Mariga was campaigning, but he never went inside Kibra. He would just reach DC, line it up, but he would never go inside. When Ruto came, he didn't go inside Kibra. These guys never went inside. So there was nothing
Is DC in Kibra?
Yeah.
So what do you mean by inside?
No, I know what he means. He means sort of the core, the heart of Kibra, which counters the statement Ben was calling to say that there was a very big statement being made by Ruto that I will come onto your turf, whatever it takes. So with this call, and this is somebody who actually lives in Kibra, he knows what went down. He's saying, no, actually, he didn't step into the core of Kibra. Is that right?
Yeah, they never went inside. They never met the real voters who matter inside Kibra. And they would ferry people from outside to make it look as if they had support.
So did they ferry in these voters? They managed to garner 11,230 votes for Mariga. Where did they come from?
you can import voters.
Right.
You know that happens.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
absolutely. I was just making sure. Well, I was just finding out your opinion.
Yes. But there's
so
no threat. To be quite honest,
Mm-hmm.
we should all accept they can't. Even Langata, they won it by default because NASA split the votes. Come 2022, even Langata
Mm-hmm.
will go.
you'll take it
Right.
back.
ODM is going to take it back. You can be assured of that.
Thank you, Atieno. Sound like you're on the road. Where are you on the road?
I'm on Gong Road. It's moving very well.
Okay, at what parts? What section of Ngong Road?
From Adam Buked to the city center,
Okay.
yeah, it's moving very well.
Asante sana. Have a good one.
Thank you.
You too. Yeah.
0719-012-600. That's the number to call for you to contribute to this conversation. We are discussing the Kibra by-election. Of course, we've just seen the returning officer come and announce the final results. And she has, of course, just given the results and said, this is it. We have Imran Okoth as the MP-elect for Kibra constituency. Of course, it was a fight where he got over 24,000 votes. The second candidate had 11,000 votes. That's less than 50% of what he had garnered. The third candidate had 5,700 votes. So this is it. Basically, the bedroom was unshaken. Although the bedroom accommodated a lot more people this time. 0719-012-600. The comments are also coming in on Facebook, and we'll be sampling some of them shortly. That's Spice of MKE on Facebook, because that's where we are live streaming. And also on YouTube, we are also live streaming there, Spice of MKE. And our conversation on Twitter is via the hashtag The Situation Room. It's 14 minutes to 8 o'clock. Good morning.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice Up.
It's interesting. We had the caller Ben talk about NASA and the fact that Raila is going to have to realign himself with other supporters. But really what this election has shown us is that NASA is not instrumental in ensuring a Raila win in Kibra. The fact that he didn't have their support, the fact that they were actually splitting his vote, yet he still won, goes to show just how insignificant the likes of ANC and Wiper are to the whole ODM movement. So for you to come and say, well, you know, NASA is, there's a divorce going on and Raila is going to have to realign himself. This, I think, speaks volumes that he still won without the support of those two. These are two whole parties we're talking about. We're talking about Wiper Party and we're talking about ANC.
You keep leaving out Ford Kenya.
Oh, yes. There was a third. And they fronted candidates. Not only did they not support him, they fronted candidates. So they went into the negative in terms of took away some votes, split some votes within ODM. And Raila still managed to clinch the seat. It's definitely his bedroom, no doubt.
You know, the what is of interest is this. I actually don't think that whether a coalition or a union of this, whether it's split, is really significant. Because the history of such association in Kenya has been that they split.
Anyway.
Yes, they always split. The question usually is when. People get together because there is a purpose that requires serving, or there's a direction in which they all feel at that point in time they need to take. But beyond that, and the same with Jubilee, it's not as though something nefarious is happening. No. There's a trend we have had in this country, and all we're doing is seeing it playing out. We're probably seeing it playing out much, much earlier than the others, but that's what's happening. If you remember, we're talking about 2000, 2001, 2002. Raila had joined KANU. Had he not?
Yep.
Precisely. Other people were in there. Then, people split. Now, if you think that is new, even at the point when we had multipartism, there was just Ford. That split into splinter groups that that brought new dimensions to the imagination. And other parties came in. It's a trend that we have in this country. That's what our politicians and political parties tend to do.
Convenience.
Yes, it is.
Agree
It's
today, disagree tomorrow, move on.
It's expediency, yes. And that's why I think Jerry is right when she talks about KANU having outlasted all this, because KANU has. This is a party we've had since independence, and it's still in existence. It's not insignificant, so to speak. I mean, someone who thinks it's insignificant is making a mistake, because every politician, with the exception of some of the younger politicians, have been a member or in KANU at some point or the other.
And even today, KANU still has a significant number of MPs, both in National Assembly, in the Senate. It has governors, right? It has gotten to a point where it can even nominate people into the Assembly, into the Senate. It has nominated senators and nominated MPs. That means it's a powerful party. It's still a strong party.
Absolutely, and that sort of reinforces this fact that I keep highlighting, that maybe Ruto doesn't have the support that he purports to have in his stronghold or in his backyard, i.e. the Rift Valley. You do have a lot of KANU supporters there. You do have a lot of Chama Mashinani support there, which takes away from his voters.
Chama Mashinani, I wouldn't say a lot, really.
You have a lot of people who liked Ruto. Ruto double T, that is, Isaac Ruto.
Eric, you must understand something significant here. Remember, when one talks about having support among the Kalenjin, even in making that statement, it's a fallacy. Because the Kalenjin also have subgroups.
Yes.
Now, Chama Mashinani is among the Kipsigis. If we had somebody who was from that background and they called in, they would probably be able to give you a clearer. But the other small communities, what is certain, there is no political leader in this country who you can say has 100% support of the community.
Of the backyard.
No. It is, now, you can say he has a large number.
I would say Raila, when I say 100%, comes closest in terms of support from his community. You'll find, votes in Kisumu, let's say, or in Kisumu County will go ODM.
They will, but not entirely. The point I'm trying to make is that even within such a stronghold, there will be people who will vote for other parties. Like, you still have people who are members of
That's an anomaly,
KANU.
though, as opposed to the norm. Whereas what I'm saying about the Rift Valley and the support that Ruto has, there is a significant opposition to him because they're still clamoring for power there.
What kind of support does he have among the Nandi?
I wouldn't.
What's the percentage?
I don't have the historic
Because then we can
knowledge.
go now among, if we go to the Tugen and those.
What
and
we
the,
have seen,
the
what we have seen with Ruto is resistance in his backyard. I've mentioned before, Mandago, we saw when Ruto tried to field his candidate for the governorship, for the gubernatorial position, the election rather, with Buzeki, the resistance, the uprising from that was very significant, and he had to actually back down. Now, if you're the leader of a community, you wouldn't have to back down. People will listen to you.
But
if you have the support.
when it comes to localized politics, and even CT keeps giving us that example.
We've seen it in ODM as well, absolutely, where you try and enforce a candidate on the people, and what happens is you get some backlash. It should be bottom up and not top down in terms of nominations and so on. But not only that, I keep mentioning, and we've had callers call in and try and explain away how it is in Ruto's bedroom itself, his former constituency where he was an MP for, how it is, it's not a Jubilee candidate that is an MP there, it's an independent female candidate. That speaks volumes. And then we saw the amount of groundwork that he had to do in the Kericho by-election. If Jubilee, i.e. Ruto, was as popular, then this should have been a walk in the park for him. But no, there's other forces within Rift Valley that command the power that Ruto seeks to have. And those forces are KANU and Chama Mashinani.
A lot of powers that politicians hold are a factor of time and space.
And perception.
Yes. Thank you, actually true. Perception plays a huge part. No one could have imagined, for instance, that when President Moi stepped down from the presidency, that KANU would lose the power that it had to the degree it had. It was not easy to tell until you actually
couldn't
saw
fathom it. Yeah.
Yes, you couldn't, because they'd been all powerful. But it did. And one also couldn't see a situation where people would look for another leader within the community and follow in the way they did. They did. Now, simply because of the two factors that I've mentioned, it then stands to reason that anybody who assumes to have power the moment you get it, what you actually do is you gain a little more, and then you actually start losing it.
You immediately start losing it. As soon as you acquire it.
As soon as you acquire it. You've heard me say that one of the reasons why you will find that someone like Raila Odinga has maintained or even increased his position is because of the position he has. When you have people in the country who believe that they are voiceless, and someone presents himself as the one who actually champions whatever it is that they feel voiceless about, that is a person whose popularity is likely to increase, not decrease.
You also have, in terms of opposition to Ruto leadership, there's other factors that are very telling. You still see people going to visit Moi in his home, which is very telling, and especially given that Moi's son is a player in this game of succession from the leadership of the Kalenjins. And you also have a number of vocal MPs from Rift Valley that actually speak up against Ruto. So you start to see perhaps the support. I mean, he's got a lot of support, don't get me wrong. He's able to mobilize people. But remember when they were coming out to vote for him as deputy and the president, Uhuru, as president, there was no other candidates fronting themselves. This was their community, and it was fine to vote for him. But internally and at a local level, you'll find that support is not as great as is perhaps perceived.
And remember that even in these areas where people supposedly say they are strongholds, we don't speak of it. Mm-hmm. But other parties exist. Like there are Jubilee supporters in Luo Nyanza. There are...
The Secretary General is from Luo Nyanza.
He is from Luo Nyanza. He is one individual. There are other people who probably support Jubilee. If you come to Central, you might be surprised to find ODM has supporters in Central. Contrary to the narratives that we keep hearing that they exist. But we're talking about the majority here. That's what represents the leaning of a people in a certain direction. And we're saying that, when people talk of the Rift Valley, they speak as though the Rift Valley is predominantly and overwhelmingly Kalenjin. It is not.
It's 50-50, isn't it? If you look at Nakuru, for instance.
60-40, more or less. Because you talk about the population of the Kikuyu. You do have the Luhya population. You have Kisis
coming in.
So, it isn't... So when votes are cast and you talk about the number of people in that particular geographical space, the dynamics also indicate that it is not possible for votes to go in the direction that the narratives that are sold continuously, it can't and it won't actually go in that direction because of these divisions that exist. It is possible when you have people like, say, Central, homogeneous, language is one. It's a lot easier for even people to follow, to have one suit decision-making process. But even then, when Central has had two candidates, their votes have always been split.
Central is actually four
it's
communities
renowned.
inside.
Yes.
Right? The Kiambu and the Murang'a and the Nyeri and the Kirinyaga, those are four.
There are four.
It's just that, yes, the language is very much the same and all. But if you have a candidate like we saw during those days of Matiba and Kibaki, Uhuru and Kibaki, it would be split in where do you come from. If you come from this side of the Chania River, then this is who you give the vote.
In fact, when you're talking about it, for instance, again, this is now a Njeri construct. That, yes, I'm actually quoting her. The Njeri construct here is that, you see, the Luhya as a homogeneous group is a figment of one's imagination. It was a creation of the colonialists. It doesn't actually exist. But of significance, you would find if you went to the coast, you'd find something similar. Yes. Now, the difference now between the coast and the western is that the Western Kenya has had one key, something that has stood out. They've had more vice presidents than any other community in this country.
And that was perhaps in a bid to try
More
and
vice
get their
presidents.
support.
Yes, vice.
Western Kenya or West?
Western Kenya, vice presidents. They've had vice presidents.
Absolutely. And
Central has had vice presidents, yes. Okay, if you count...
I'm saying, are you saying Luhya Kenya or Western?
Well, Western is... When you say Western, you
Luhya
talk about
Kenya.
Luhya, yes.
So they've had two.
No.
Who's the third?
No. Why don't we start? There was Wamalwa.
Yes.
Then there was Mudavadi. There was Awori.
three.
Arithmetic, just 1, 2, 3.
3. Yes.
And you can
we
see
are looking
why
at what's happening in Kibera. We are waiting for the returning officer to come and formally declare Imran Okoth as the MP-elect for Kibera constituency. And of course, we'll also looking at everything else around this particular by-election. I think when we come back, let's also move into looking at the media and how the media has reported this and the trust for the media and the role of polling, and especially polling for every party saying that we've got our polls and they show that we are winning this election. Good morning. It's 8 o'clock.
Spice up your life. Traffic.
All right, so Thika Road coming into town, of course, all the way from all stops. It's been moving, it's not moving, it's moving, it's not moving. That's what all the conversation is saying. Moving and not moving. Then Langata Road into town. It's moving, but then when you get to the area around Wilson Airport coming towards T-Mall Junction and onwards towards Nyayo Stadium roundabout, it starts building up. Now, what are people saying? Niko kwa jama pa Mombasa Road, Bellevue imeshikana kama mukimo. That's what's happening. This is at Bellevue. There's the South Sea going towards town. And of course, it begins all the way from airport and the City Cabanas going into town. That's what the problem is. It's just traffic. It's just Friday traffic. Kiambu Road coming into town, same old story. Lower Kabete Road, Matatu drivers and touts are roughing up swivel drivers. Well, that's what has been happening. And somebody else said, no, this is not true. But, well, we have situations on Wayaki Way coming into town. Jogoo Road going into town. It's moving. It stops at City Stadium roundabout. If you have any situation that you'd like us to know of, 0719 012 600. That's 0719 012 600.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have Jerry Thorne, lawyer, political strategist, an insider in the corridors of power, ready to take on any side of the debate with her signature eloquence and grit. C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
And it's official. Imran Okoth is the MP-elect for Kibera constituency. He has won that seat. He's been declared winner. Of course, he's currently just parading the showing of the certificate. He's gotten it from the returning officer, and this is what's happening. So he's already been declared winner. Imran Okoth is the MP-elect for Kibera constituency. This we knew from late as last night, but now it's official. Now it's no longer speculative. Now we wait for the next stages. We're opening up the phone lines. We're taking up your feedback on this 0719 012 600 and also looking at what it means. We've got Abednego who's calling from Eldoret. Good morning, Abednego.
Good morning, Mr. Latif.
Karibu sana to the Situation Room.
Kwanza kabisa ningependa kumshukuru Imran.
Kumpongeza.
Wake kumpongeza.
Maybe he's thankful too.
Ingawaje ningetaka wajibilia shinde, lakini hata kama hakushinda ni sawa. Ni hivyo na tutampongeza yeye maana ameshinda kwa njia ambayo ni nzuri. Ya na maoni yangu ni kwamba kuna jambo ambalo limefanyika pale Kibera ambalo si la kawaida sana. Ya kwamba ingawaje tunaweza tukatazama kwamba candidate wa Jubilee ameanguka. And when you look at the 2017 election, there was a very small margin ambaye Jubilee walishinda nayo 13%, I think. Na kwa sasa ambapo tumekuwa na hii handshake imefanyika, handshake ambayo imekuwa ni nzuri, tunashukuru pia kwa hiyo. Lakini ukitazama kwa ndani ni kwamba kuna yule ambaye amekuwa akimfanyia yule Mariga campaign, that is William Ruto. You can say that he has done pretty well because he was alone. He was alone. That's what I can say.
What do you mean he was alone?
He was alone because there was no big support from the party leader. Ya kwamba kama rais mwenyewe angejitokeza kama vile party leader ODM alijitokeza kumfanyia Imran Okoth, labda kungekuwa na mabadiliko.
Mbona unafikiria party leader hakujitokeza?
Hakujitokeza kwa sababu tungetaka tumuone kwa uwanjani. Because it's a democratic country and tungetamani kumuona pia akimfanyia.
Lakini
Mariga.
Kwa nini hakujitokeza?
Hapo ndipo kuna neno, kwa sababu labda hakujitokeza kwa sababu ya ile neno ambalo tunaliita handshake. Na ingawaje kuna hiyo jambo la handshake, Ruto akaweza kupata 36% from Kibra constituency. Licha ya kwamba kuna mambo ya handshake ambayo imekuwa ikisikika kila mahali. Kwa hivyo inamaanisha kwamba hata wale ambao wako pale Kibra waliweza kumsikiza yeye na wakafurahia mambo ambayo alikuwa analeta pale, ingawaje kuna mambo ya handshake. The second thing is this ya kwamba Raila Odinga asichukulie jambo la NASA kuwa ni jambo rahisi katika siasa. Kwa sababu kwa mtazamo wangu ni kwamba when you look at vile nchi ambayo inakaa, vile nchi ya Kenya inakaa, ni kwamba Raila Odinga amekuwa akipata support kubwa sana from Western Kenya. Lakini akijaribu kujiondoa na wale viongozi wa Western ambao ni Musalia Mudavadi pamoja na Wetangula, kutakuwa na lile jambo ambalo linaweza kujitokeza ambalo linaweza nikajiita kuna isolation. Watafeel kwamba kuna isolation from Raila Odinga, wale kutoka sasa Western. Na zile kura anaweza akazipoteza, na akipoteza kura za Western, nadhani kwamba hiyo haitakuwa jambo nzuri kwake. Kwa hivyo lazima ajipange na asidharau kwamba labda ni rahisi kwamba NASA inaanguka, lakini sio hivyo, kwamba achunge sana kura za Western. Na hata mimi nakaribia hapa Western, na ukisikia mazungumzo ya wale ambao wanatoka Western, it's like Raila isolated them so much. They don't feel Raila anymore.
Did you see Raila bring Oparanya, who's a very popular governor in Western? He has the support of Oparanya, and that is indicative of the fact that he has not isolated Western, and in fact Western still he enjoys support from Western.
That could be true. That could be true. But when you see, you know, Oparanya hajakuwa, he's not that national leader that much. Hajapenyeza sana katika, he's not that, hajaingia grassroots. Unajua Mudavadi amekuwa akitembea, amejulikana na watu. Hata ukiuliza watu kwamba who do you know from Western, atakwambia tunajua Mudavadi.
For now.
But
maybe he's building Oparanya to become a national leader. We spoke about this on the program a few weeks ago, that it was very significant that he chose Oparanya and brought him into the fold of national politics. And Oparanya is very popular, and of course, having served 2 terms as governor, there's nowhere else to go but into national leadership in terms of politics. Kwa hivyo, I wouldn't say that he's actually been isolating Western. Western, of course, is very fragmented, so it's very difficult to bring them together as a bloc. And you can see some through Boni Khalwale on the Tanga side. You can see ANC is trying to go alone, independent, and coming across now as the official opposition, or painting themselves as the official opposition. So Western is yet to be decided in terms of who they're following as a bloc. As far as support, I think I can see a lot of support through Oparanya for Raila.
Ndugu, naomba nikuulize
swali. I could agree with you. But ukitazama ni kwamba ukipitia Oparanya vile mmesema, that could be true. I can agree with you. Lakini huwezi ukaingia kwa Oparanya bila kupitia Mudavadi. Kwa sababu lazima kuna ni kama daraja ya wale ambao wanapenda watu wanampenda. Kuna ule upendo ambao watu wako naye kwa Mudavadi. Na ingawaje utaruka moja kwa moja mpaka kwa Oparanya, but you still need Mudavadi to soften, there's that softening. Na kuna kusoften watu wa Western wafeel kwamba okay, hata kama tumeona ni kama tumekuwa isolated kwa kiasi fulani. Lakini mkimtupa Mudavadi ni kama mmetutupa, kwa sababu hata mkienda kwa Oparanya, what about Mudavadi ambaye amekuwa pamoja na nyinyi kwa muda mrefu?
Also Mudavadi relies quite heavily on Raila's support. It also works vice versa. So it's probably something
This is a long one, actually. This is a long conversation.
But the question I'd like to ask actually is this.
I also have somebody else on the line.
Let me ask the
thank you.
No, I don't want Abednego to go. I want to ask him this question.
And then you can listen to
yes.
to the response.
I mean, do you actually think, for instance, that the support Raila has in Western Kenya is a factor of those political leaders, or is it that he has a groundswell support from the voter themselves?
Okay, unajua ile jambo la mtu wetu ila aliwezi kutoka kwa Mkenya.
Lipo bado.
This is
kama mtu wetu. Unajua mtu akiona kwamba anatengwa anahurumiwa na watu. Unajua kuna ile huruma ya Mudavadi. Unajua huruma hata wakati Mudavadi anaongea you can feel for him. You can feel for him.
We feel pity on him.
I have Roween also is on the line. Roween is calling in from Nairobi. Roween, good morning.
Good morning. How are you, panel?
Fine, thank you.
Good, thank you.
City, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
Leo mmetupa wapi ndo? Anyways,
ndio kona sore throat.
Sauti ilipotea, so huwezi kuwa kwa talk show kama sauti haipo.
Kwani alikuwa na campaign. Anyways, I would like to weigh in on kwanza is it Abednego?
Yes.
Yeah. I think he has a point somehow. Kwamba, if you look at somebody like Wetangula, this is a seasoned politician. I mean, he has that backing of, as much as unajua hakuna kitu anafanya nyumbani, as in, but he has that backing. Unajua, he has that backing. The Luya vote. Look at somebody like Eugene. I mean, Eugene right now can go to Trans Nzoia without campaigning and he'll be governor. He'll be something. Now, come back to the Hustler Nation. Unajua umekuwa unapiga hustler mambo mingi sana. But I think this guy really resonates with the current what do I say? Generation or the current electorate. I think he really resonates with them. As in, I say wanna consider umse vibaya sana. So Rao as such is losing his traction. He's losing his traction on the ground. But as much as he's
lakini vitu ni different at the ballot box, clearly. Even if he seems to be losing his traction on the ground, vitu ni different at the ballot box, as we've seen.
The percentage of victory has dropped.
This is your bedroom, I think. Okay, coming back to Kibra, This is your bedroom. In fact, he woke up early in the morning, went, voted. Mariga was watching some program in the TV somewhere, but he had 11,000 votes. I mean, does this worry you?
It shouldn't be overlooked. And you're right. A lot of people are buying into, Ruto's gained a lot of traction with the hustler narrative and so on. And
So I think
you got to give it to the man.
Yeah, and talking about Western and what Abednego was saying, I believe Oparanya is the governor for Kakamega. I mean, if Oparanya was to stand up right now and say I'm the leader of the Luya, you will see what will happen.
What will happen?
I guess atashanga sana. Yes, he leader wa Luya.
Leader wa Luya ni wengi. Anyone can be from Atwoli, Eugene, Bonikalwale. Ni wengi.
Hata Bonikalwale. In fact, those people are not leaders. Madividi has come out clear and he was endorsed, I think.
So has Bonikalwale, so has Wetangula. There's Eugene.
No. They have not been endorsed. Yeah, I think that was the contention. Because
endorsed by whom?
I think you remember the time Atwoli was like, as in who was
Atwoli
the leader.
Atwoli did an opinion poll, and then he announced that.
Yeah, something like that.
And lately he has said he's going to tell us who else will be the new Luya leader.
Who else? How many are there?
He has dumped him.
but you see, of course, I know Atwoli is like, he's just ranting out there. He's not a politician as such, but yeah.
Rowin,
I think yes.
Asante sana for your call.
Asante sana.
Have a good day, Rowin.
He speaks of Eugene.
0719-012-600. 0719-012-600. So we have it now officially that Imran Okoth has been declared the winner of the Kibra by-election. He garnered 24,636 votes. out of a total votes cast of 41,984. That's 41,984, and he got 24,636. He is the MP-elect for Kibra constituency. The narrative that the Jubilee Party, the side that has been campaigning alongside McDonald Mariga, has been spinning all morning, and of course we've heard it in the calls this morning, is in 2017, Jubilee had 13.3% of the votes, NASA had 78.3% of the votes in Kibra.
Mm-hmm.
In ODM this time has 63.6% of the votes, and Jubilee has 36.4% of the votes. Now, first of all, if you count 63.6 plus 36.4, it comes to 100%. It's like they are the only two parties that were participating in this. So there's one fallacy there. So conclusion number one, according to the Jubilee has doubled its support in Kibra from 13.3 to 36.4. ODM has fallen by more than 20% in Kibra. 63.6 from 78.3. NASA no longer exists. So Jubilee is claiming that they played a part in that. And number 4, DP Ruto wins. That's a communication that's come out of the campaign.
There's an element of truth to what they say. I mean, this is a serious feat to go in there, and it's Raila's bedroom, not even backyard, and actually garner 11,000 votes, or is it 36% of the votes? He's done very well. But we have to bear a few things in mind when we look at these statistics. For starters, in terms of voter turnout, there's a lot of people who didn't come out to vote because, as far as they're concerned, Raila was going to get it anyway. So it's not necessarily a true reflection of the sentiments if this were a national, or if Kibra was looked at from a national voter's perspective when it comes to voting for presidency. I think there's a serious margin there that needs to be considered because, first of all, it's a by-election, so there's voter exhaustion. People are not going to come out and vote again, having voted previously. Secondly, a lot of people took it for granted that Okoth will win because it's Raila's backyard, it's the late Kenneth Okoth's brother, it's ODM. So a lot of people didn't actually come out, and I think those people would have come out to vote for Raila's party. And also, it's not necessarily a reflection of Raila's support either, because if it was Raila running for presidency, you'd have seen a much higher turnout and a much higher percentage. So we've got to be careful when we're giving these statistics. No doubt there has been a win for Ruto there. You've got to hand it to the man to go in there with Mariga, very non-political figure, apolitical figure, perhaps somebody who's not known in Kibra other than for his football, international football, of course, and to manage to garner 11,000 votes, that's quite something.
From 0 to 11,000, pretty fast. I have Barry calling in from Nairobi. Good morning, Barry.
How are you?
We're very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm okay.
Talk about Kibra.
I'm talking about Kibra.
Mm-hmm.
Probably I want to bring a different dimension.
Right.
The first thing is, I think the presumption of the Jubilee wing that the 36% is representative is first of all a fallacy. The reason being, the dynamics of Kibra is so different. For anyone who has followed elections in this country from 1992, you realize that the voters of Kibra don't stay in Kibra.
Right.
They come very far. Like myself, I stay in Kajiado and I vote in Kibra.
Right.
I know people who stay in Naivasha and vote in Kibra. This is because around that time, remember, there was Philip Leakey, who was the then MP, and Ford Kenya, but the then party really wanted a seat in Nairobi. And Kibra was identified. So all Raila's voters, so you may call the tribes and all whatever, they all come and vote in Kibra. So being a by-election, these guys never turned up.
Right.
So what this guy is saying is that whatever Mariga got is the entirety of what the Jubilee has. Now,
but what Raila got is not the entirety of what they have.
So we are
he's got a good point. He's got a very good point. And also I highlighted that a lot of people took for granted that Raila would win and didn't come out to vote.
This one I'll not.
No, let's hear him. Let's hear him, Eric.
Can we hear him finish what he's saying?
Barry, let me first of all respond. Barry, just because you don't live in Kibra and you vote in Kibra doesn't mean that everybody else who does not live in Kibra is a supporter of ODM.
I'm saying we are so many. I'm saying there's so many. Actually, if you follow the dynamics of the elections in this country from 1992, you realize that most voters of Kibra stay there.
These guys come as far as Limutu, they come as far as Tik and Machakos, come as far as and Athi River, you get. And for reason that these are by-elections, this particular constituency of voters, they never showed up for the election.
Yeah.
Now, should they show up for the election, telling those numbers are so different? What I'm trying to say, the 36%, like it is pointing out, is not representative.
Okay.
The other bit that I want to bring out is that a by-election in a cosmopolitan environment like Nairobi presents the worst nightmare for any politician. One, you're dealing with a very illiterate voter who actually understands what you're talking about. The second thing is that the low voter are not expected, right? And like a rural environment.
Oh, we've lost Larry.
Him. Oh dear.
All right, so we have Thomas calling in from Kisumu. Good morning, Thomas.
Hello, good morning.
How are you
Good
doing?
morning.
Okay, I'm fine. I love the show.
Thank you.
Yes, I want to talk about Kibra. Really, I would not relate that to national politics in terms of 2022 presidential elections. Because member of parliament elections really we can't use that to gauge the giants in politics, the likes of Raila Odinga and William Ruto.
You didn't know.
The reason really? The reason as why I'm saying that, is because you see, in Kibra, first of all, we have different tribes living there. The Jubilee candidate, McDonald Mariga, first of all, is known by almost everybody because he was a footballer. I think that has also contributed towards him garnering some votes in Kibra. Because there are people who really loved him, football and all that. So really, if we compare the candidate that Jubilee had last time and Mariga, maybe the popularity we can say is far much different.
The name recognition, of course, goes without saying. So you're saying it wasn't
Yeah,
the Ruto
Mariga
factor.
was easy to sell. We can ask ourselves why Mariga? Because it was easy to sell in Kibra.
So it was Mariga that was supporting, not Ruto, or they weren't going against Raila. It's this footballer, the hero-like status.
Ruto is out of the picture. It was Mariga himself. In fact, Mariga didn't even need any support from Jubilee. Yeah, Mariga would have done that solo.
He'd have gotten the 11,000 by himself.
Yes, by himself.
Now, it's interesting you mentioned that you don't see how this shapes any 2022 politics because it's just an MP seat that was being contested. Did you not notice the sort of heavyweights that came to support Raila on the podium from the likes of Anne Waiguru, Charity Ngilu, Alfred Mutua, Oparanya, and so on? Do you not see some political realignments that are headed towards 2022 here?
I can call those flower girls. They had no impact in Kibra MP election because really in Kibra ODM went alone. It was not a collusion. It was a solid and individual party ODM. Jubilee came in as a coalition.
Okay.
Yeah, and if Jubilee as a coalition can garner that vote in Kibra, what if ODM was also a coalition? Let's take the number of votes that were garnered by ANC and Ford Kenya
combined,
and then
about 8,000
of Imran.
Yeah,
it's about 8,000. So you'd get to
32,000. 32
over 46 times as a percentage.
Yes. So really, I want to say ODM has done that alone. In fact, we were just to leave Mariga and Imran alone. The issue of big figures going to Kibra to do a campaign,
or just mudding the waters.
No, I think
that was just
It was an opportunity for the big figures. I think it was a platform for the big figures, actually, for their own politics. So, in order for Okoth to win, I don't think he needed Raila's endorsement. We knew that he would have had Raila's endorsement by virtue of the fact that he's the ODM candidate that was nominated to run for the seat. Similarly, Mariga, it's an interesting point he brings out. Did Ruto make Mariga, or
did Mariga go it alone?
Did Mariga go it alone? The fact that the name recognition stands out for him already. He's known internationally. You've got a lot of youth in Kibra. Football is something they all aspire to. He's got the rags to riches story in terms of having made it from nothing and made it in football, something that's very sort of tangible for those living in Kibra. So very aspirational. You can see the likability factor there, multiplying by virtue of the fact that he's a footballer.
Roderick.
Habari yake?
Mzuri.
Salama kabisa.
How's everyone?
Good,
Fine,
good.
thank you, Roderick.
I have two things. One, the writing is on the wall. When Ruto lost in the Abikaile and Garissa MCS seat and Ganda seat, the guy should have gone back to strategize and not go back to head on with Raila in Kibra. And that's why even the party leader of Jubilee didn't support him on that. So nasikia huyu jamaa aliingia na boot state house.
What makes you say he didn't support him? Because Eric is convinced. I said he didn't support him.
The party leader should have been on the ground.
Absolutely.
Like any other party leaders. From like the Mudavadis of this world and everyone should have been on the ground.
This party leader. Listen, Roderick. You've just told us about two candidates that Jubilee lost in Garissa.
Uganda and Garissa.
Was the party leader there?
The party leader never went there, but Ruto was fighting those seats. The party leader cannot go to campaign for a small seat like an MCA, but Ruto was on the ground.
Very telling.
And he lost both seats to ODM in Garissa, which is a Jubilee stronghold, and also in Ghana, whereby they used to snatch it from ODM, and they still lost it. So he should have learned from that, and this is a third defeat. This is a third straight defeat for Ruto.
Do you actually think Ruto? Do you think Ruto had any hopes of actually winning this seat, or do you think this is part of a strategy or information gathering?
Personally, I think it's not about Kibra. It's about 2022 and the BBI. Even the people coming on the stage there, the Waigurus and everyone, it's about the BBI and the upcoming, whatever the BBI carries. You're getting my point? Even the position of Alfred Mutua and everyone, it's about the BBI.
What they're going to get.
What they're going to get. Is it the Prime Minister, is it the Vice Prime Minister, whatever, or the President and all that. But let me tell you one thing. The second thing that I wanted to say. NASA died when Raila was being sworn in. The autopsy was done during the handshake. And now the burial has been done.
The burial has concluded.
Kibra election. We don't have a coalition. NASA is dead.
All right. Roderick, where are you?
Now,
I can hear you in traffic.
The great battle is coming in 2020. Now in 2020, when the BBI referendum is coming through now. That's where the battle will be now.
And we can see the
battle
alignments.
Of wit and battle of everything. And the alignment has already begun.
Absolutely.
So you people have a nice Christmas. Kuleni vizuri.
Hatutaongea na wewe before that.
Hey, Roderick, Christmas comes in December. We're in November, brother.
I have a rough 2020. Kulipa deni na referendum.
Hi, sir. Danny is calling from Ahero. Good morning.
Morning to you.
Good
morning.
Yeah, I'm very, very much pleased with what you are discussing in the morning right now. What I would like to say is that this was just a win-win situation that has taken place at Kibra.
Yep.
Yeah, Mr. Ruto. Ruto has won. The reason as to why I'm saying that he has won is that, he has just ventured into the backyard of Jacom with the knowledge very well that he was very much aware that he could not emerge the winner. But that little support that he has gotten from Kibra is a win on his side. Another candidate who is Mr. Owalo is just entering into politics for the first time. he has also gathered some good votes.
Mm-hmm.
So Imran, Imran obviously was known to win the election. So he is the one who was emerged the winner.
If it was so certain he was going to win the elections, why was Raila so sort of aggressive with the campaigns? And, I use the word aggressive lightly in terms of the, it was very concentrated campaigns here. There's a lot of effort. If it was that obvious, Raila did seem shook initially.
It was a shock, yes. Because the DP had thrown his weight behind Mariga.
No, Maraga is the other fellow. Yes.
Mariga.
Yes.
So after the DP had thrown his weight behind Mariga, he wanted to test the water. He wanted to exercise the strength of his political muscle. So, he also had to take out all his tools to go and parade behind his Imran.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I believe that even where DP is very much aware that he has won. Because the hearts, those who voted for Mariga actually had something that DP could actually be very much happy about.
Thank you, Dennis.
Yeah.
Asante sana for your call this morning. Remember, we're recapping the fact that Imran Okoth has been declared the winner of the Kibra by-election. Imran has garnered 24,636 votes officially against total votes cast of 41,984. There was McDonald Mariga who came in second, 11,230, and Eliud Owalo of ANC was third with 5,275 votes. So, Bernard Imran Okoth is the MP-elect for Kibra constituency. This is now official. It has been declared by the returning officer there. This is the Situation Room. It's 8:30.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done
Thika Road,
right.
Kamnyanzia Safari Park. Things are thick. This is what's happening on Thika Road. If it chews like a goat, it walks like a goat, and herds like a goat. Well, it must be a goat. This is a kind of situation that you're having on Thika Road coming into town. That's how it is. Thika Road traffic jam. It's a Friday. What do you expect? Anything different? Well, you must be joking. Mombasa Road coming into town. Somebody's saying not much traffic, but also somebody else is saying that there's traffic building up from Bellevue going towards Nyayo Stadium roundabout. And of course, if there's traffic towards Nyayo Stadium roundabout, there'll be traffic towards Bunyala Road roundabout. There'll be traffic towards Railways Bridge and into Haile Selassie roundabout. How is Wayakiwe coming into town? It was busy this morning all the way from Kangemi. It still is busy around Westlands coming into town, but it's moving. Right, and Kiambu Road has some semblance of order every morning because of the traffic police officers there, but it's still busy. It doesn't mean that it doesn't get busy. And then Ngong Road coming into town, well, it flows, it's busy, but it's flowing. It's not as bad as has been in previous occasions. Langata Road to town also looking not so bad, but it starts building up at the Timor roundabout. Anything else? 0719-012-600. Let us know. Good morning.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Broadcasting in Nairobi on 94.4. We are in Mombasa on 87.9. In Kisumu 102.5, 96.0 in Nakuru, 96.7 in Eldoret, 90.9 Nyeri. Malindi, we are on 97.7. And we live stream every morning online on our website, www.spicefm.co.ke. On Facebook, Spice FM KE. On YouTube, Spice FM KE. The conversation happens via our Twitter handle, Spice FM KE. And the hashtag is the Situation Room. My name is Eric Latif. We have Jerry Thorne and C.T. Muga.
One of the things that the media is expected to do is to inform. Now, in this election, this by-election that we've just had, they did an excellent job of informing the citizenry. And it's been by and large a peaceful election. In literally every election we've had in this country, there is one component of electioneering that is always very, very preeminent. They're what we refer to as surveys of human research or the public opinion research. They're called polls. This particular election, this was the one thing that was clearly absent. One didn't hear people coming up and predicting, because if you're talking about polling, you are talking about political prophets. We didn't hear of them. No, we didn't hear of anybody coming out very, very strongly. The only people who attempted this were the candidates themselves, who'd come out and tell you, I will win, and I'm sure to win. But you expect them to say that. You can't be a candidate and then go and announce to the whole country that you expect to lose and yet you're a candidate. Now, the thing about polling that perhaps the media has helped us understand and also probably hasn't done enough work on is how accurate are polls? And what role does the media play in ensuring that there's an accuracy of information, especially when it comes to politics? Why politics? Because if there's one thing that we guarantees emotive response in this country, it's politics. Whether you're going into an election, whether you're dealing with election results, whether you're politicking to garner or to get a seat, or you're looking for votes, it definitely raises emotion, and it raises the temperatures of emotion. This election, there were attempts at temperature raising. There were accusations and counter-accusations. It's like ticks on a dog, nothing unusual. We had a few people jostle here and there. There was mention of violence, but that is a bit of an anomaly because by and large our elections are peaceful. It's after the elections that we have problems. The role of the media is something we've discussed on this show on many, many occasions. But with regards to understanding what it is that people think and how it is they view a situation or a subject, and in this case I'm talking about politics specifically, this particular election, if it's anything to go by, the media hasn't actually done a very good job. Not really. What they've done is report. Report is simply telling you the status quo. But as for predicting, as for giving you perspectives that you perhaps need to consider, no. All they did was tell us what we already knew.
You realize we're part of the media and we have been analyzing and giving perspectives, CT.
I actually am
worth noting.
We've even gone more than that. We've interviewed candidates.
Yes, we have.
And sought to.
That's what we are supposed to do.
So they should have done more.
In addition to.
So who are they supposed to be informing? The electorate, the voters themselves, or the audience? So for instance, because we're not voters in Kibra, we were watching it, things play out.
One of the things, you see, when you report, you're raising awareness of what is happening. I am going beyond that. I'm saying we need to also tell people what else is available apart from the norm. Why have I brought in polling? Because polling is something every once in a while. We've had polling agencies in this country that are famous. They want us to know about this. They want us to know about this. They want us to. And there was a time when in the national elections, people sort of like waited with bated breath to hear what each of these polling agencies would come up with.
Yeah, that's the irony, that the polls themselves could direct votes because you then want to lean on the side of the winning team.
Yes.
So the polls do play a role, although of course perfect prediction is impossible, and Kenyans being Kenyans might not be as honest as they should be, especially when it comes to things political, for fear of repercussions, or maybe they just feel it's their right to keep the chosen candidate.
It's interesting you should say that.
Secret, yeah.
It's actually called, the two names are three actually. It's actually called the Bradley effect.
Right.
Okay. After a former mayor of Los Angeles, a gentleman called Bradley, and this is how it came about. That when people were asked about their opinions, especially when there was white against black, there was a white candidate and a black candidate. Mostly among the white, they were afraid to give an opinion that might indicate that they were against the black. So they'll end up giving you information that was not true.
Misleading, yeah.
Yes, exactly. So when you looked at the polls, it would point to one direction. Now, the Bradley effect would take place in this. When there was a clear demarcation and a clear difference between what was supposedly thought to be the case and then the outcome of the election. So, but the poll said this and the outcome is completely different.
You actually get the reverse of it.
Exactly. Yes. So, and why I'm saying the media ought to have played a bigger role in issues of polling is this. One, it helps people in understanding what polls actually do. And how limited they are and how successful they can be.
How helpful are the predictions, though? That's the thing. Is when we say people,
ask yourself,
are we talking about
how
the electorate?
helpful can they be? Not are they? We already have polls.
I'm talking about election polls in terms of predicting the numbers.
Yes.
What other than of interest to us who are the audience for the
why
electorate?
invest in this as well?
Of what consequence, of what benefit is it to the electorate?
Actually, people want to be on the winning side.
Right.
So one of the things it does, it gives you an indication of which side you could go to if you want the winning side.
So
it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing, because what happens is the electorate then votes on the basis of this bias that they have, or this preference to be on the winning side, as opposed to the candidate who would most address their issues. So the media could actually be playing a misleading role in their role for democracy and information and education. If what they're going to be reporting, if they're reporting on polls, and we've said that people will tend to lean towards the winning side.
They don't conduct the polls.
No, they don't conduct the polls, but the media has a role in democracy. If they're
propagate the results.
Of course they do, but that's part of their function.
But now what you're saying is, what I hear you saying is the media should have invested in polling, right?
Yes, they should have.
The media goes in and actually contracts
does their own little polling.
And we do the poll, and then we announce and say, in Kibra, this is what's likely to be the outcome based on the poll.
All right. If you look at, say, some of the sections that we find in mainstream print media, you'll find a section on education, a section on health. And these sections are actually informative. They're not politicking, they're just informing you. And they're telling you this is how things ought to be. And I'm saying, something as important as an election, a role such as important as the one we in the media have, apart from simply reporting, and apart from simply analyzing what has been reported, further participation. One, how many citizens actually understand what polls actually are? And how many of them understand that actually they can be influenced? How many of them understand that you can even choose a polling agency that you know has a certain leaning to serve your purpose? How many people understand just the nuances I'm talking about?
So you're suggesting that the media come in as the neutral player in terms of polling and actually carry out a poll of their own?
Partly that, but also make it a level playing ground. When people participate in polling and they understand exactly what it's about, or when they get the results, they understand how these results can come about, you have a better informed, the skewed
Did you want the
leaning or
media to
influence.
commission a polling company, or media to actually conduct the poll?
Let me
Or it
ask
doesn't
the
matter
question. The media, by the way, does do its own polling sometimes, just so that you understand. They do. It's not that they don't. They actually do. And there are mechanisms by which they do it. I am going beyond what is traditional. I am saying when somebody who consumes that information is informed, they consume it from a position of knowledge or from a position of information. Right now, if we talk to say about the ordinary Kenyan and what they hear on radio, many people will tell you, nilisikia kwa radio, meaning it's gospel truth. Some will tell you, I read it in the papers. Again, it's assumed it's gospel truth. Polls are considered in that same vein. Many people read it, unajua, this particular poll pollsters...
In this country,
Of what material benefit are these predictions? Are we talking about, other than to political pundits and people who are interested in political analysis, how is it going to help?
They influence political outcomes. And how the political outcomes...
I wanted you to say that because they do. People want to be on the winning side. Now, is that a good way to skew political outcomes, or would you rather the citizenry or the electorate votes on issue-based leadership, as opposed to seeing a poll and then saying, wow, it looks like this candidate is going to win, I want to be on the winning side, and leaning towards that? So if the media was to get involved in polling, they would be propagating this skewed way of voting, whether it's tribal, whether it's because I want to be on the winning side, whether it's personality politics, as opposed to encouraging the populace, which is what they should be doing in a democracy, to vote for issues, to vote for leaders who are issue-based or ideologically based.
There's the other side of the poll, though, Jerry, that where the poll can actually be coming out to show what are the issues that the people of this particular constituency consider important. So, for instance, you can say 28% of the people consider road construction or school or education to be the most important. So it brings out the issues that the candidates need to be considering.
There's research that could be carried out to understand that. But usually when we're reporting as media in the run-up to election, which is what the conversation is based on, or is pegged on rather, what media or what these polling companies are trying to do is a prediction of the outcome of the election. So who is going to win? And I think that is what CT is referring to when we talk about election polls. And even the examples he's given with regards to the states and people not being open with their opinions, lest they be regarded racist. It's all to do, these opinion polls are to do with elections and who's going to win them. Now, what I'm asking or what I'm suggesting is that this is actually detrimental to the voter. What CT is suggesting is that the media get involved, but I feel in doing so, they would be propagating this idea of predicting and making people head towards who's going to be the winner, which is the wrong way to vote. You're misinforming the electorate, and the role of the media, especially in a democracy, is to ensure that the electorate is sufficiently informed. Of course, there's the oversight of government excesses and reporting on that as well. But in terms of for the citizenry, it's to ensure they're educated and informed so they can make an informed choice.
What stage of polling are you referring to, CT? Are you talking about the during campaign polling or the exit polling?
No,
because like in
I
think in the
I'm
Bradley
talking
one,
about the concept of polling.
In the Bradley effect, it was the exit polls. So people have come out of the polling center and then
they're being
asked.
No, actually, it was there was that, but there was also because remember the effect in this particular case was actually the same, because you don't want to. The thing was, you don't want to appear like you're a racist, or you don't want to appear like you're anti-black. So whether it is after you voted or before you voted, there's a great likelihood that you will not give accurate information. There are two things that I mentioned. Level the playing field by ensuring people actually understand this particular concept of this and just understand it. Meaning, this is what polling is. It is random, for instance. It's actually a scientific process, but sometimes it can be skewed, meaning let people understand what it is. So when the information comes out, or whatever it is that comes out as a result of the polling, somebody has a background from which they can actually determine the veracity of the information they're getting. Most people do not know. They treat it as gospel, depending. The one I found particularly interesting, really, really interesting, was the election that we were going into in 2002. Because it had Kalonzo leading at some point. 2013, sorry, not 2002, 2013.
2007.
No, 2007. My goodness.
2007, the PNU.
Yes.
And yes.
There was a time Kalonzo was ahead of the pack. Clear.
In the polls?
Yes, he was
beating Kibaki.
He beat Kibaki, he beat Raila clean in the polls. In fact, he was the favorite to actually take that particular presidency. And by the time we came to the election, according to the polls that there were three polling agencies. They were more or less neck to neck. Now, the outcome of that election was clear. There was no neck to neck. There were two people who were clearly ahead, and then there was a third who was clearly third. Okay? Now, it doesn't mean that the polls were inaccurate. This is the thing. It is when the polls were taken and who they sampled, because a lot of it has to do with sampling. Now, you can actually predetermine these results. Now, and what I'm about to say may sound strange, but you can actually predetermine these results if, for instance, you say it is random and it isn't. You actually more or less pre-select the sort of people you want to talk to. Because already you'll have given whatever it is, the results are certain bias.
You can manipulate them to get whatever results you want.
Exactly.
There's no doubt about that.
And still claim. Now, all I'm saying is what we're discussing here, we take for granted because you have knowledge of it. But the consumers of these things don't necessarily always have.
The question is, should they be consuming it? Should the media be exacerbating that consumption? This is my point, that no, the media shouldn't do any polls, shouldn't actually communicate any polls, because I think polls serve to skew decisions whereby people don't make informed decision in choosing their leader.
Do you think there are any polls that are objective? Like, for instance, a certain pollster actually went out and they conducted this poll without doing any of those manipulative things.
I think
objectively wanted to seek to understand what is the...
You would get information.
What's the vibe
What's
on the ground?
Mood on the ground? You're a researcher, CT, so you would know.
You'd get information. Now, the
and
question is, okay, the how you got the information is what we're discussing here, but...
The interpretation.
Yes, but what do you do with that information? Okay, look, this work that we do, every once in a while when you read the papers, every other paper or some radio station says we're the number one. How do they arrive at this?
That one.
Well, there's sales. In terms of newspapers, there's many.
The one when you talk about this radio
indicators.
station or this TV station.
Yes.
Like we're the number one radio station,
Yes.
no doubt.
Yes.
It's conducted in certain ways. You measure, so you sample people and then you give them.
Those are more statistics than polls.
It's called diaries, basically. So you give the people diary, and Jerry. So we've given you a diary for the next quarter, and every so often you go and tick whatever radio station you're listening to, whatever media you're consuming.
We don't have a
you do that.
With technology, we can't tell what people are tuned into or how many people are tuned into this frequency.
There's technology for that. Has it been adopted in Kenya? No. Why? A conversation for another day. It's 11 minutes to 9 o'clock. This is a situation room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Imran Okoth is the MP-elect for Kibra constituency. That's been the breaking news this morning. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. And so out of that, we are continuing the conversation. And CT Muga now is saying we do not see much of information in terms of opinion polling coming through the media or even from the media. And you're saying the media should have played a role in this.
I'm saying the media can only bring out what exists. They don't usually do the polling. Other people do. But I was saying this election, maybe I missed it. Did anyone come across any polling?
Nope.
Now,
the candidates themselves were conducting their own, kind of polling, whatever they were doing. And then, to determine what areas to go to if you don't want to go to them inside Kibra or you want to just go to the peripheries of Kibra to gather your votes.
What media were you listening to? Because if you look at what, radio penetration and maybe Facebook and so on, if you weren't following that, which I think are the platforms that you're most likely to get the most listeners in this particular demographic in Kibra, radio, I would say. So perhaps radio did have some predictions and some polls.
No.
Also Kibra being volatile.
That's not what I'm referring to. See, the media, let me start again. The media already does that. They inform. They're going on a daily basis. We've been informed. There's no question about it.
Right.
What I'm referring to, there are these agencies that their function is to run polls, meaning to give us an indication of what people are thinking about this, people are thinking about the other.
Sure.
And when it comes to politics, they also do the same. I'm saying there was a distinct silence on that front, or there was a distinct absence on that front this time around.
Oh, with the polls.
Yes.
Oh, right.
To be fair, I've actually heard arguments being told, all right, so in a national election, like a general election, it would be very expensive for the media to sponsor a poll. But for a constituency like this one, it's Nairobi, it's within the capital city, all the media houses are concentrated here, the main media houses are concentrated here. They could have even sponsored an opinion poll for this particular one to show this is how an opinion poll is done, this is what we're thinking, this is what the thinking is on the ground, these are the sentiments of the people, this is what they this is what they expect their leader to bring to them. The media could have played a role in this particular one by especially, commissioning a poll and saying this is a poll by the Media Owners Association or by whatever,
I think the poll CT refers to is, these predictions of the outcome of an election as opposed to the research of what's important and the key issues in the different wards
it could have been a combination of those.
The constituency.
In the constituency. You see, even in the other polls, it has all that. It has all that information. What stands out, what's reported mostly is this is who's likely to win. And then the other questions go, of course, when you're asking the question is, who are you likely to vote for? And then there's a question of why, what do you consider most important? What is why is your pain point in this particular election, in your constituency? So all that information will come in and it will inform this is the reason why I have thought that Imran is going to be my candidate.
I'm glad there was no polls, or if they were, they weren't as heavily publicized as they could have been, because I said yesterday, Kibra is a volatile demographic, and what you don't want is to build up expectations and then dampen them. So for instance, if people thought that the ODM party was going to win by 90%, and even if they won by just the 60 or 58%, what have you, then you would get a lot of disappointment and frustration. Or if people thought that Mariga, their candidate, was going to win because of what the polls were reporting, then what you create is, those expectations, when let down in a demographic like Kibra, you can see it implode, or you can see the results of the backlash wouldn't be the best.
You know, Jerry, where the problem with the polls as they present this country is we do the outcomes. You see, they tell us this is the outcome. As I said, I was going beyond the outcome. There's a lot that happens before that outcome, and that to me is what is actually important. And the findings that they have when they conduct these polls, what comes out, what they get to know which they didn't know. But that never really gets attention.
That never gets featured.
No, it doesn't. If it's mentioned, and if it is, it's...
So what is this other information?
All right, for instance, it's not as though they only ask you about your opinion. Let's say they were talking about Kibra. There's always the question of who would be your preferred candidate. That one has to be asked,
Yes.
right? Okay. Why do you think you want this candidate? What benefits has... There are all these questions. Now, these questions will respond to certain issues that are pertinent to that particular constituency. The preferences, the things they would like to see done, how they would like to be governed, how the CDF would be used. This information is important information. And the media are the people who are mandated to give that sort of information. But the focus has been on outcome. Now, that outcome is what raises temperatures. Why is so getting 40%?
Why?
Is so getting 30%? And those percentages, it's never on one issue. They will tell you those who feel clean drinking water should cost 5 cents a gallon or 5 cents a liter were 20%. Those who... That never comes out. And I was saying this is the information that the media would help in disseminating so that people understand. So polls are not just about the end product or the results or the verdict or the conclusion. No. There's this other information that leads to that is actually equally important because it tells you about the people, the demographics of the people in that constituency. Now, why it's also useful, if you were a politician and you wanted to vie for that post, you will have information as to what to focus on because you already will have the information.
They have grassroots information. I mean, it's not collected and collated as polls or research would do it, but they have their people on the ground who know how V2 is on the ground.
When they go and promise a school, it's because they know this area people want a school. When they promise a dispensary in this particular ward, it's because they know in this ward, a dispensary is what they consider important.
But Eric, do you know...
But it's not. It's just that it's not scientific. So they don't know what percentage of the people here, for example...
Yes, they don't. Because, again, if you ask a certain group of people a certain question, they will tell you. And what makes you think that the Bradley effect does not take place even here. With our people? When you ask them
and
something.
Also another reason, I think we're so caught up in politicking, and as is the media, and keeping us politically charged, that information isn't the media's priority in terms of ensuring the electorate is well informed and educated. They get caught up in the political games. If you look at our headlines, even just today, it's very politically charged. It's never issue based. They're never talking about which MP has done what in terms of delivering services, what services are needed. So they're not out to inform and educate the citizenry. They're more out to sort of dance to the tune of the narratives that the politicians are playing and electrify people. I mean, this is a highly politically charged nation. Anywhere else I've lived, yes, politics maybe in the run-up to the elections, you might hear about it, but you don't have people as well informed about politics in this country. I haven't seen it in any other country that I've lived in. And that's a result of the media and what agendas the media is setting, because that's what's informing our thoughts. If every day when we turn on the news, what we're hearing is, the politics between Ruto and Tanga Kioeleke, that becomes what our thoughts are about. And then we start seeking that information. We become hungry for that. So also the audience is not hungry for this information, because we've been otherwise treated to high octane politics, and also the media to feed this audience does politics only. They don't look to inform. There's very little information I could pick out of this newspaper that I would need as a voter, or that would help me make a better decision when picking my leader.
You see, we're talking about the election. We're talking about the outcomes, because how is it that people will know the results? Because the media has been on it 24 hours, isn't it? Okay, now, all I'm saying is within that same space, within that same space where somebody was caught trying to bribe, somebody carried stones, somebody didn't quite throw the stones they had carried. Within that particular space, this same media, the same family with which to... Yes, thank you.
It's an issue of investment as well, CT. It's a cost. Is it a justifiable cost? If you were running a media house, would you actually say, yes, I want to dedicate X million shillings to conduct a poll in this particular way? Why? What do you get out of it?
If I was running a media house,
just like the way
I would actually ask the simple question is, I already have a viewership, a listenership, all right? What is it that I can do to expand it? One of the ways that marketers do their business is not to give people who already have a product, but to create an interest in a new product. You create it. Once interest is created, you can sell more.
Cross-selling.
Yes. That's what I'm talking about.
So we invest in this with a view to actually monetizing it. Going forward at some point in the future.
Yeah, you can. You actually have the means. Remember, it's a business. Now, it's clear that our media we in the media, in the business of selling news, not telling the truth. Okay? That is pertinently clear and it's pertinently understood.
Hold on to that. So when you come out of this break, when you take a look at traffic, of course, we'll be asking you what your thoughts are on this. Should the media have actually conducted a poll on this? Good morning. This is the Situation Room. It's 9 o'clock.
Spice up your life.
If you're using the Kikuyu bypass heading towards Nairobi-Naivasha highway, avoid speeding. Check your limits, all right? Do not speed in the morning. Situation at Outer Ring Road at all stops is slow, but be calm. Yeah, so Outer Ring Road joining into Thika Superhighway at all stops, or also coming onto Outer Ring Road from Thika Superhighway at all stops. Snarl up, but it's moving. Be calm. Situation that's Outer Ring Road. Jogoo Road coming into town is okay. But of course, when you get to the City Stadium roundabout all the way into Landis Road, then you get into a bit of a gridlock there. Mbagathi way from T-Mall heading towards Ngong Road is packed as always, but thank God it's moving. This is the opposite lane. Kuteremka T-Mall is absolutely clear. Ngong Road coming into town, not so bad. What's up with the Uhuru Highway? Been stuck at the same place for close to 45 minutes. This is a Mombasa Road, Uhuru Highway, coming into town, stuck there 45 minutes. This morning on Naivasha Road, somewhere between Tierra and Kinyanjui Road Junction, someone saw a car that had flipped over, belly up on the tarmac. Hope the occupants are okay. If you know what exactly happened there, please let us know. 0719 012 600. There's a situation on the road this morning.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have Jerry Thorne, lawyer, political strategist, an insider in the corridors of power, ready to take on any side of the debate with her signature eloquence and grit. C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It's 2 minutes after 9 o'clock. Hiya, it's 9. 2 minutes after 9 o'clock. Good morning.
It's Friday.
Imagine, and it's Friday.
Oh, hiya, it's Friday. Yeah.
That Friday feeling.
I
One more hour.
You know, I feel like we've been on Kibra since midnight, and I actually hadn't noticed how time was moving.
Kibra symbolizes many things. Mm-hmm. We had a caller who called in to talk about something which was actually interesting. It says the absent voter in a by-election.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now. Many people move residences. but they do not change the polling station or the constituency in which they vote in.
Yes.
Okay? So over the years, that could happen. Now, if you look at this very issue that gentleman brought up and the others that came up in the conversation, this thing we're calling, let me stop calling it a poll for a second and just call it a survey. A survey of opinions of people in that constituency. Something of this sort would have been captured. And you would even have the figures. You'd even know that actually those who are registered voters in Kibera are X thousands, all right? You'd also know those who are actually resident in Kibera are X thousands. Those who are not registered, etc., etc., etc. For instance, we know that the population of Nairobi doesn't, as is reported, doesn't mean that they all live in Nairobi. No, they don't. As for whether they all vote in Nairobi, again, that's a different story altogether. Why? Because we know, anecdotally speaking, that there are people who travel from all around the environs of Nairobi to come and work in Nairobi, and then they go back again. Any major town, whether it's Mombasa, whether it's Kisumu, think of any big town.
Has a day population and a night population.
Exactly. So why should our constituencies be different? Many Kenyans will live in town, but they must go and vote at home.
And home here is?
It's not where they live. It's where the ancestors came from. Yes. So something like surveys, all they do, forget any politicking, they actually give you information. For instance, if radio stations, TV stations, print media did not go into this big song and dance about telling the whole populace or the consumer base that they have that they're the most wonderful and that they're best and they're better than everybody else, that is something that takes into account or gives the impression that a survey has been done. That's how they've arrived at that.
Yes.
Now, I cannot overstate the importance of what I'm trying to say. I'm simply trying to say an opportunity to inform so that you actually have accurate information will be lost if you do not think along those lines.
And you think the media basically, because this poll gives us content.
It gives you
and
a
it's
basis
important
on which,
for us to invest in how to actually get this content so then we can disseminate the content.
Even as the media, you have a say. When other people say this, you can say, excuse me, it's not quite that. All right? We did this and this and this and this, and this information you're giving us. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what happens in the political arena. We are the ones who are going to disseminate that information. We are the ones who disseminate it.
With media, as we understand it, we know different media houses have been accused.
Leanings.
Absolutely, have been accused of different political leanings. So would this not be a tool to further enhance those political leanings and indeed actually distort democracy, because you're now not informing, you're persuading your electorate or your audience?
What is wrong with media houses having political leanings?
Because they then start to have biases in their reporting, in the way they frame, so that information is not objective and they're not giving the full picture, and it starts becoming more a persuasive tool as opposed to an informative tool. So it stops playing its role in democracy as it should.
In democracy, it isn't the entire media. In the so-called West, you have media houses whose leanings are clear. You know, these
Absolutely.
guys, clear.
Now, if you know that, and if they come out with it, then when you're watching it, you've got that filter.
Yes. So in Kenya, it's a perception.
In Kenya, there's and I mean,
so
you've got to be a discerning member of the audience.
In this particular election, you think this media house is leaning towards so and so. Apart from, for example, in a case where we saw the head of a media house in 2013 actually coming out to say, I support this candidate.
That was SK Macharia.
That was SK Macharia saying, I support this candidate. So therefore, you can
and
look
they
at...
have serious penetration in terms of their vernacular radio, across the country. Now,
so when you looked at
once you
RMS
see
at
that, then
point,
you
could
know
tell.
even the editorial policy is going to reflect the owner's leanings. So you now start skewing democracy, because you're no longer, as the media, reporting objectively and informing the citizenry. You're now playing a persuasive role and reporting biasly. So
But must there be such a distinction? Can you not also be informative and persuasive at the same time?
no, if you have leanings, then it's very difficult to be objective. The idea is to be objective so that you're giving people information and knowledge.
If we take that argument
supporting
to its
doesn't
logical
mean that you
conclusion,
lose your objectivity.
If we take that argument to its logical conclusion, I would say it's furthering actually democracy. You know why? If you have people who have clear biases, there will be people who will want to straddle the fence and appear to be in the middle, isn't it? this West that I speak of, there are media houses that are known simply to be truth seekers. They're known. Okay? If you read this publication, they tend to move in this direction. Democracy allows for that variation.
Now, you have to be very careful because the media's role is also to inform us what the government is doing. So if they have leanings, they might not be as watchful a watchdog as we're expecting them to be, or as they should be in a democracy. We see that with a lot of, we have that problem in studio ourselves, where there's certain brand names we can't mention because perhaps they might be advertisers with us. Sorry, this is slightly incestuous a conversation. But so you can imagine that is with the commercial world.
This entire conversation is that way inclined.
You can imagine with a commercial relationship we have with, or rather with the relationship we have with commercial entities as media houses, because we rely on them for advertising revenue. So we've got to be very careful not to report negatively on them. Now, that is what would happen politically, or rather if media houses were politically inclined, which they are. Jerry, so we're careful not to report certain things, not to say certain things. So we're not fully informing the citizenry.
It is true. What you say is true.
What I say is always true,
no,
CT, but I do like it when you qualify
it.
It
isn't.
Thank you.
What you say is true, but have you ever wondered why it is most people who are consumers of print media buy more than one paper? Have you ever considered? Yes, they do.
I thought it was the other way, where one paper, 5 people will read it.
No. People who buy tend to buy more than one paper.
Oh, one brand of newspaper. I thought
this,
you buy.
Like they'll find the Daily
okay.
They'll buy the Standard.
You thought
Sorry, I thought somebody would buy 2 copies of the Standard.
No.
Right.
Or one will buy the Star and buy a copy of the Standard.
I got it.
Or they'll buy the Standard and a copy of the People.
So that you can compare and contrast.
Two papers would be a constant. Then some include a third one. You know why?
Perspectives.
Yes, they already understand that this paper seems to have a bias in this direction. So let me hear their view.
I balance it.
Yes, let me balance it by getting this particular view here. You see? So
that's the discerning reader. Most people will take the news. You said it yourself.
Jerry,
they'll take the news and take it for gospel.
It's the same song I've sung before,
Mm-hmm.
that this reader and the consumer is often misunderstood or underrated. They understand the biases and they're not overly influenced. They even know.
It's not about
this
just the influence.
Will take a position on
it's
this
not
matter.
just about the influence. It's also the framing, so that one paper will leave out large chunks of information that might malign a certain candidate, for instance. So they fail. No, they fail in their duty to give information. Their duty in democracy, or their role in democracy, to give information. So it's not just about the nature of the reporting. It's the fact that they miss out actual information.
If our fear of having this kind of polling is looking at the biases and all, how can we then unify it and make sure that we have actually a poll that's commissioned by an objective body? Let's say, for example, we have the political parties, what's it called? The body that regulates political parties. So we have an office of polls, of political party polls, or opinion polls.
They would still be subject to manipulation.
You'll still come and say the same way IEBC is accused of being manipulated. And the 15,000 votes don't appear, they don't...
Other than, as I say, for entertainment, for political pundits, in terms of voter outcome and the polls, I don't see the purpose, especially in a political charged demographic that Kenya is, because you raise expectations and that leaves scope for frustration thereafter. So
but don't you see
I don't see the role of the poll, other than the research he then talks about, which can be carried out when it's not,
and
it doesn't have to be a political climate. We don't have to wait for elections.
That doesn't come out with all that information. Because the first question that you'll be asked is, who are you likely to vote for? And then the why. And then you go into the...
this is what I'm saying. It doesn't have to have the political undertones. It doesn't have to be done during a political, during elections and so on. And you'll find people are actually a lot more honest. If it's information we're looking for from a certain constituency or county, you can do these surveys, but they don't need to be politically orientated, i.e. it doesn't have to be during an election. You don't have to ask who do they want to vote for. Because
but during an election is important, because this is a time when political parties and candidates are actually coming out to say, we are going to address your issues.
Mhm.
So it's very important that we see whether the candidates understand the issues.
But that can
and
be
we
done
also see
before the
why the
elections.
people. We already know what the people feel, all right?
But the
So-
survey can be done before the elections.
Yes, and also we can do it during the campaigns.
But can you
So
not see
before
when
the
people are
election-
politically
Before
charged,
the
even
election,
their-
you're raising
their
the issues.
reasoning is
Before the
skewed.
election, you're raising the issues, and the people there are telling you these are the issues that we have on the ground, right?
Mhm.
And then during the campaigns, you also go back there and find out so which of these candidates is actually seeming to understand the issues of the people.
I don't know. You're sort of
And the
suggesting
people are
these-
telling you that yes, we've actually listened to Eli Dowalo or Imran Okoth or McDonald Mariga or the others, and we feel that so and so when it comes to education, so and so has a better agenda. When it comes to health, so and so has a
Yeah,
better agenda.
you're
You may therefore
suggesting
see
that we don't
the
have
strengths
this
and weaknesses
information
of
in
the
the
leaders.
first instance.
We don't have it scientifically done.
What makes you say that? The government has a statistics bureau that would collect information and has this sort of information. So how many people live in the neighborhood? How many schools per person in that neighborhood? That's all there. How many people have access to
Yes,
clean
but
drinking
they
water?
don't have the
The
opinion.
information
Do they
is
have
there.
the opinion of the people on the ground?
What,
They
what
don't seek
opinion do they want? Because these are facts and statistics. The fact that something
The
is an
facts
issue.
are there hospitals here? Yes, there are hospitals here.
Mhm.
Now, what does Njeri think about the hospitals that are here?
'Cause
That
Njeri
is an
lives
opinion.
there.
Because Njeri lives here.
You
so
want an opinion of how I feel about the hospital,
Yes.
my ratings
People's
of the
sentiments
hospital.
on the
Eric,
ground.
Jerry is taking you around a
No, no, I'm
down a
not.
rabbit hole. Don't go there. No, Jerry, that's not what we're doing.
Mhm.
When you ask an opinion, you then get an accurate understanding of the
An
very thing you're
opinion of
speaking
what? Give us some examples. What opinions are you seeking?
So Kibra,
Mhm.
all right? We've actually seen, even in the Vox Pop that we are seeing in the news, people being asked, so what would you like your MP to do for you?
Mhm.
And people are saying, we'd like this person to make sure that we have education, we have better sanitation services, we have access to
Angalia maslahi
business.
ya kina mama.
Angalia maslahi ya kina mama. Those are
You
opinions
think
on
you,
the ground.
you need an opinion poll to establish this?
Yes, you need to hear from the people. How else are you
Yes.
going to hear from the people?
No, but with such basic service provision, when that's what's needed, it goes without saying, what
No.
Not
people's
necessarily.
opinion would
Why
be.
do people
But
say they
no,
need it if they have it?
No, I was
Not
going to say,
necessarily
no, they
that.
don't have it. They need it, and it goes without saying. But the politicians, if you're saying what you want them to do is then match their spiel to the needs on the ground, they do already have that.
No.
They have people
They
at the
don't
grassroots.
understand what
in the grassroots,
what is a bigger
they-
need.
they
What is
do.
a bigger need? For example, yes, there is education, there is sanitation, there is business. What is a bigger need for these constituents? If people tell you that for us education is bigger than sanitation, then you
but
know
there's local
we have-
leaders, not elected necessarily, but you have social workers, you have teachers who
And
are
they
able to
don't-
pick up the
Jerry,
sentiments and actually, this is
Jerry,
how these guys
Jerry,
collect their
Jerry,
information.
Jerry.
Before they run their campaigns, they have information. The MPs or the MCAs,
Yes.
they have information. Do you remember that one guy in Nakuru whom his campaign was that he was going to kill bed bugs?
Mm.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
Now, he didn't pull that out of the air. It's something he's...
He
And
was-
there was no poll or survey that was carried out. It's a sentiments that people have been able to pick out
He had
at a
an
local level.
unscientific poll.
You know what you're actually saying is that research is not necessary. That's what I'm hearing you say.
Not for politics.
It is.
For leadership,
It's for
perhaps.
leadership and governance. The
Something
whole
as
point is
important
about
as
governance.
politics.
Once you're in governance, then you can be given the information if you're designing policy or legislating. But if it's for politics, you'll find. I'm not saying it's not important. I'm saying
Of
what
course
is
you
done.
are.
What is done practically and what is pragmatic.
And
you're
what
not
can
going
be
to
more
find a
practical than a
party.
survey?
You're not going to find a party is going to invest in an actual survey. They have ways of going about it that are not through surveys and questioning.
Then how
people.
do they miss it so often
Let
if,
me
if
open
that
the
is
phone
such a good
lines.
model?
It's 16 minutes after 9.
Spice and everything nice. Everything nice. Spice everything.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
The reason we call this Kenya's biggest conversation is because we want you also to participate in it. Spice FM KE on Facebook. That's where you can comment via the hashtag The Situation Room on Twitter and also via calling us in 0719-012-600. That's 0719-012-600. This morning we're having the conversation on opinion polling and political opinion polling, and CT Muga is saying that there's a lot of opportunity that is usually missed when you come into this kind of elections and electoral processes when you don't get the sentiment from the ground, which is properly and scientifically collated, and it forms an benchmark for which the leaders can actually say, this is what the people on the ground feel, this is what they want, this is what they need, and then they can tell us, based on our needs, this is the candidate who we are feeling is also telling us is going to address our issues. And Jerry is saying, but why do we need to conduct opinion polls, especially during the campaigning period? Because what that does is it polarizes the electorate, and also it influences the electorate. Some people will feel that, well, because I can see that Imran is going to win, I'm just going to vote for Imran. Then.
You know, when you use the word polls, it comes with very many negative connotations. If you call it an opinion survey, it might sound better. But let me ask the question. Do you think it's accidental that most handheld phones are black?
That they are black?
Yes. Look at your phone. Do you think it's accidental that they're black?
Field, but go on. Where is this going?
It's because people who actually manufacture these things do precisely that. They seek opinion polls in terms of colors.
They conducted research.
That's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time they're producing it, they actually already understand what's going to be bought. And for purpose of variation, because there'll be some small percentage of people who like red and yellow, you will find red and yellow phones and orange phones. But they will not be the majority. If you look at some of the big companies, if you look at, say, something like even just Microsoft, for instance, as an example, and ask yourself, how many, say, social scientists they employ, you would be shocked at just the huge numbers. Why? These people focus on trying to understand the consumer base, their likes, their dislikes, their preferences in the future, all these dynamics. Now, if voting is such an emotive issue and is something so central to our well-being as a nation, surely what is this cost that you're saying will be too much for you to actually understand? Not surmise, not suppose, actually document and understand scientifically what these people feel, think, know, understand, so that you can make decisions based on that, together with the data you already have.
This is you as a politician you're talking about.
No, actually, no. I was talking about the population of ants that occupy the corner of the building in this particular establishment.
Go away. Are you referring to the politician or the electorate?
What have I been talking about the whole morning? It's politics and politicians and how the media,
candidate or the electorate.
Yes, and how it's an opportunity that, given the role that the media has, how it could serve and further this purpose by ensuring that that information is available. Really simple. Information is available because you've collected it. You've collected it scientifically, so you remove the element of doubt or you reduce it significantly. That really is it. I'm not saying anything more complicated than that.
So that's why we need to... But the point, I hear your point. The role of the media in this is where I'm finding, yes, I can see the sense, but also I'm looking at it from a business perspective. Why invest in this?
Why not?
Because really...
Okay, what else should you invest in?
In news gathering and the rest, yes. But this is a heavy one in news gathering. It's the same way we...
You know, we all know how we are influenced to buy consumer products. It's through what we call advertising, isn't it?
Yes.
Advertising is actually just information skewed in a certain direction to sort of like pick your interest, pique it, and ensure that it also persuades you at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Now, why do you think people who design these messages are so successful? It's because they've done exactly what I'm saying. They've gone and not figured out, they know. So even when they put forward this, Pikakwa this, Safisha with this, Tembean with this, they have a fairly clear idea who they are communicating to and how it is that message can best be received. It's all clearly understood.
Which the politicians do understand. I mean, they work on the fears of desires. This is basic human psychology. What I was asking is, when you're talking about the leaders, they should conduct polls to understand what the needs are, with a view to providing for those needs, or with a view to actually resonating when they're campaigning, resonating with the electorate.
They can if they wish to. I wanted this to fall on the shoulders of one aspect of the fourth estate who have a function, a duty to actually, among other things, inform people.
Mhm.
Yes.
So with this duty to inform, who would they be informing? The politicians?
Everyone.
Or, okay, so this
Everyone.
survey as to what the electorate wants should fall on whose ears then? Or it's directed and targeted at who? The leaders thereafter?
The public.
No,
The public.
The general consumer.
And what you're
I have
suggesting
Otieno.
is at the moment nobody knows. We don't have this information in terms of, you don't think the government, there's a statistics bureau, you don't think the different constituencies have
That's a
this
good question.
information, you don't think the different wards have these statistics.
They have details of what projects have been conducted. They have...
Pause. Pause.
Carry on.
Pause. Otieno.
Hello.
Good morning.
Morning.
This is Otieno calling in from Kisumu. How are you?
I'm fine.
So we're talking about opinion polling. What's your view on this?
Opinion polling is necessary and very important. But the kind of consumers we are having, the kind of attitude that Kenyans have, is quite pathetic. Because if you ask somebody why they elected Imran, they'll tell you because Jacom had proposed him. Yeah, not necessarily because Imran had an idea of doing something in Kibra. Based on their interest or what they wanted earlier. So polling is very important, but as Kenyans, the majority really do not relate to that.
So
yeah, what they have is that they don't have agendas. They don't have what they need. They choose leaders based on political affiliation.
It's very emotive, but it would be telling the truth if they said that they picked Imran because of Jacom. Wouldn't that be the truth?
Yes.
And isn't that
Yes.
what we want in a survey or in a poll?
Yeah, but you see, polling would say in Kibra we lack hospitals, we lack schools, we lack bursary to take children to school. What was Imran doing? Was Imran doing that earlier on? Did he have an idea? Is Imran having an attachment to the people of Kibra in terms of what they want?
In that, does he understand? I think he's best placed considering he actually works. He worked
He was
in the
CDF
CDS office when his brother was the MP. So in terms of proximity to leadership and understanding what was he needed, I don't think that's in
You
doubt.
already had that.
He had that.
Yes.
But if you look at in a broader perspective, I was listening to some Kenyans saying that the issue of BBI, there is no need for them to read because the president and Jacoma have read it. So really, polling is necessary, but the Kenyans, the attitude you have is very wrong.
So it's going to be a waste of money and time.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Otieno.
You know what? The question you asked in Jerry, it's something that is actually a subject of debate even in, say, biomedical research, which is what I've been involved in for some time. And it's like asking, is the qualitative way of doing things more important than the quantitative? Because what you have as government data is quantitative. Meaning they know the number of schools, they know this.
The statistics.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
figures.
It's quantitative. Now, I was referring more to the qualitative because it's what makes it possible for what is quantitative in data gathering for the government, for it not only to be acceptable, but for it to be owned and for it to be workable. Meaning, if I don't know what someone thinks about this wonderful thing that I'm bringing for them, I have no guarantee that they will even accept it. I actually have even less guarantee that it will actually work.
I think given where Kibra is, for instance, where, basics are still lacking, perhaps for more developed constituencies or more sort of settled constituencies, but where we have water and sanitation as a great concern, where we have housing as a great concern, I don't think we need to start going into qualitative studies for us to understand what is needed. This is very basic. Once we've reached the basics and we're now looking at, sort of more sophisticated provision of services, then maybe polling would become important, whereby we speak to the populace and we find out what they want. Right now, it's crystal clear that what they want is maybe a sewer system. What they want is clean water. Why are we having to ask them if you need clean water? It goes without saying. Once all those have been provided, the basics have been provided, basics in as far as the human rights stipulations go. You're not even talking about sort of personalizing what basic is, so you don't need a poll. But we've made declarations in terms of human rights declarations, progressive rights that people deserve in this country. Once we've hit those, and that should be the blueprint from which these leaders are reading from, not from what they hear on the ground. Because also on the ground, sometimes the electorate doesn't know what it wants. I know that sounds absurd, but you could think they would think that perhaps a school is a priority, whereas there's no clean water, so these children are getting ill and not being able to go to school. So sometimes you might not be getting the right answers as a leader, especially where it's basic provision of rights that are conferred to you as human rights. That's not being provided yet. So let's use the blueprint as what we would call the poll, or understanding what people want, because it's not what people want at this stage, it's what people need. And let's use this human rights provisions, the basic human provision of human rights. Let's use that as the blueprint, and then we'll come to polling a bit later once the society develops a little bit. Once there's basic provisions of services and so on, then you can start polling and asking people what's important to them. Is it climate change and so on? For now, just give them clean water.
So what you're saying is we must wait for a certain level of development to be achieved before you actually find out what people think, what they want, or what they think.
I think so. I mean, if people are malnourished, can they even think? Let's provide food for them in the first instance. When you're malnourished, you can't think. So when you're asking somebody what do you need and they're starving, give them the food, and then we can look at looking at what their opinions might be. What I'm saying with Kibra is provision of basic services is so lacking that we don't need to poll people to ask them what they need. What we want to do is use the declarations that we have made on different platforms from Maputo. There's universal human rights declarations that we've signed to, we've ratified, we're trying to bring into law to give effect. These are human rights, progressive and social rights. Yes, they may be, some of them basic human rights. Let's get that and use that as a blueprint of what needs to be provided for the people of Kibra by the leaders.
Polls don't
and then from there on, we can move on and get polling and ask people what they want.
Present. Polls can deal with the future and prospects and perspectives.
So they can help with planning.
Just give me...
think ahead and say, what if we did this?
In the present, give me clean water. Do you understand where we are?
In the present, deal with me later.
In the present,
we will discuss the future.
012-600, 0719-012-600. Our opinion polls important. Should you have seen some out of Kibra by-election? Good morning. 9:30.
Traffic.
All right, so we know how the situation is in some parts of the road. For example, Thika Road joining into Outer Ring Road. There's construction there that's been going on for a couple of weeks, and of course that always causes a snarl up rats around Allsops area, of course. So when you're approaching that area, be careful. Ngong Road coming into town, it has been moving smoothly. There's construction is going on, but it's not so bad. Langata Road Kameshikana as usual, bumper to bumper. Same to Mbagathi Road. This is Langata Road from Wilson coming down into Timor, going up into Mbagathi, going all the way again down towards Nyayo Stadium roundabout and Slip Road into Bunyala roundabout. Lower Kabete Road, Matatus, drivers and touts. That's a issue that's happening there. So, of course, they are moving, but it's not so bad. James Geshuru, it's clear. Whoa, it looks very good. Kikuyu bypass, if you're heading towards Nairobi, also slow down. Traffic police are there to tell you, observe the speed limit. It's 100 kph. Both sides on the southern bypass coming from Olasereni and going all the way to Kikuyu and vice versa. Kiambu Road coming into town is also quite busy, but also obviously we know that there has been some semblance of order when you have police officers there. Be careful whatever you are. 0719-012-600. Anything major that you think we need to inform everybody else, let us know. Good morning.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
I have just been corrected. Imran was constituency manager, not CDF manager.
Oh, he was constituency manager.
Constituency manager.
All right.
Yes.
So who was CDF manager? The person who's corrected you can also please give us more information.
I'm sure he will know, and I'm sure he will inform me shortly. Yes.
So we actually, because this has been reported on several other platforms that he was CDF manager, but now we are talking about him being constituency manager.
What we do know is that he was Ken Okoth's brother, so that must be one proud mother, having two of her sons become MP of the constituency, in which she raised them in with some hardship, from what I understand from the late Ken Okoth. So very proud mother there, having brought up her children single-handedly as a single mum, and having two of them become leaders of that community. Fantastic.
We're taking up your phone lines are open 0719-012-600. That's 0719-012-600. Also, you can comment via our Facebook page. That is Spice FM KE. We are discussing opinion polling. And Jerry, you're saying people need basic needs now. Ask them later.
Yes, I think, for a more advanced, when I say advanced, a more developed society, at least economically and at least in terms of provision of basic services, then you can do these polls where you say it's qualitative and we're trying to figure out what the population feel they need. Right now, I mean, you drive through Kibra, what they need is some proper sanitation, some sewers, some infrastructure, jobs. You don't have to have a survey in order to ascertain this. These are basic services that they still don't have. Once that's been provided for, then you can have a survey and say, well, what's more important to you, the environment, or, shall we stop cutting trees here and there, that sort of thing.
The thing about Kibra is the moment you term or you label a dwelling as a slum.
An informal settlement, let's be politically correct. Yeah.
Yes, and yet that's not true of Kibra.
Is it not an
informal settlement? No.
Okay.
This isn't a philosophy.
I think
you have been to Kibra. Did you see?
We went to Kibra together. We had a lovely drive.
The entire Kibra. Would you call that an informal settlement?
I would. Some of the houses. I would
Jerry,
say.
be honest.
I'm being honest.
Some parts of Kibra may fall into that category, but a large part of it, no.
There was some, what would be sort of the opposite of a formal settlement, in that there was organized estates within Kibra as well. That goes without saying. But in terms of Kibra being a slum, I don't think there's any doubt as to that. I think it's even globally acknowledged and recognized, universally so, that probably the second biggest slum in Africa and one of the biggest in the world, comparable to the favelas you have in Brazil. So, I mean, we could split hairs and get into semantics as to whether we're going to call it a slum, informal settlement. It definitely falls into the definition of slum.
What Bonnie was talking about. So the outside Kibra is formal, the inside Kibra is informal. Probably. He did not go inside, or basically campaigning outside. Maybe this is what we also refer to. But the point is, in parts of Kibra constituency are informal, parts of Kibra constituency are formal. Ayani, Olympic.
I mean, the name Kibera is synonymous with the word slum. Let's not overlook the basics in an attempt to over-philosophize what we're talking about, CT. It's a slum. And
I'm not over-philosophizing. An informal settlement.
It is a densely populated area. It's marked by crowding, rundown housing, poverty. They say social disorganization as part of the definition of what a slum is. But with Kibera, I saw community setups that I haven't seen in other parts of the country, or in other parts of Nairobi, in other constituencies. But in terms of it falling into the definition...
Adam's Arcade is in Kibra.
Right, yes. No, I'm aware that Kibra.
Kibra.
Yes, of course I'm aware of that. But we know what we're talking about when we talk about Kibera, for starters. So, yes, I'm aware that Kibra does have, I think, the former president, Moi, his residence is in Kibra.
Actually, that was the vice president's residence, official.
Right. It was the official vice president's residence.
Right. Yeah.
He just didn't move out.
And the French embassy, the French ambassador's residence was also next to it for the longest time. You see, the reason why I'm bringing up this issue,
but these aren't the masses. Come on, guys. Let's be honest. We know what Kibra is about. It's an informal settlement. You know that
it is not an informal settlement. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Populated. The houses are run down. We know all these things.
It is not an informal settlement.
What is it?
parts of Kibra would fit into that category. See, it is lambasting the entire
Kibera
as
is an
one
informal
thing.
settlement.
This is what I'm trying to say. It isn't. It's like telling
Not
me
Kibera.
Jericho
Kibera is a slum.
It's like telling me Jerusalem is a slum, and I would be telling you no.
Okay, I would say about 85% of the people in Kibra live in informal settlements. That is a wild guess. It's a ballpark figure.
I think...
And that's where polling comes in.
That's it. Right. No, I'm sure the information is there. You don't need to poll people and get their opinions as to whether it's a slum or not. The information is there. There's a lot of even NGOs that are involved.
Some of the houses that you refer to as informal settlements,
Mm-hmm.
because that's a Western really description of it.
Mm-hmm.
Some are just traditional housing. I have seen, for instance, when you find an urban setting encroaching on a rural area, you'll find rural houses now fall within, say, the municipality or something.
Mm.
They are just rural homes. Now, you're going to call them semi-permanent, you're going to call them informal, but that is a sort of housing that people have lived in. Now, all this terminology that you're calling...
It's a combination of things. So the housing might be similar to something we've seen in the village. So it's corrugated iron and you have that in the village. But when that's combined with the fact that the area is very densely populated and marked by crowding, rundown housing, poverty and so on, then it falls into the definition of a slum. So yes, you can pick one ingredient and say, overcrowding. Overcrowding doesn't necessarily mean slum. You can have overcrowded apartments, you have kileleshu and so on. Those are overcrowded. It doesn't mean slum. So slum is a combination, or informal settlement, it's a combination of all these things. So yes, you might have housing that you'll also find in the village within Kibera, and it's might not be run down. But when all these ingredients, when all these factors are brought together in an urbanized area, then yes, you will get a slum, which is what Kibera is.
So you still maintain that polling is not important in this?
I don't think it's a priority, put it that way, not for a demographic
So
like
what is
Kibera.
the priority?
The priority is getting the basics. We're saying we want to poll so that the leaders, this is the premise of the rationale.
No.
This is what we were talking about.
Get what I said accurately. What did I say exactly?
Polling needs to happen so people can be informed. And I did ask you the leaders, and you were facetious and you said, no, the ants on the wall. I wanted to know, who are we looking to inform? When we say
my
it's the
premise
citizenry,
was the role of the media.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I was saying that the media would assist greatly in ensuring the general public is informed. Leaders come from the so-called general public.
Mm-hmm.
That accurate information, not just the details of statistics as to schools, but what people think, what they prefer, what they like. That is not information that the government collects.
Given
it
that
never
some
does.
of these people are, facing, dire sort of desperate, you've got to be careful in giving them what they like. Some people will ask to be given food, which is not a
Jerry,
sustainable. You see one guy,
people are
Sonko, he
poor,
takes
they can't
advantage.
think.
No. They're
That
desperate.
because
It's not that they can't think, but they might need money for that day. You see it with some of Sonko's strategies in how he resolves problems. As opposed to them being long-lasting and sustainable, he comes in with a band-aid
so when people say
approach and so on. So when you ask people what they want,
is food security.
when you ask, they don't say food security. They say they need food. So you might think, I'll give you food. No, as a leader, you will know it is food security.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm saying, at the moment, with where Kibera is, with where Kibra is, there is a blueprint for what they need, as is mandated by basic human rights. There's declarations. There's the human rights on water, clean water, and sanitation, and so on. Let's get that right first. Then we can poll the people and ask them what they need.
In what order?
Because how do you mean?
In what order? What comes first? What do you start with? So we saw, for example,
these social rights,
the late Ken Okoth
focused on education.
Yes,
because that empowers them. That was in keeping with his ideology, because of course that's what he went through. He went to school in Kibra. He was an Olympic, and then he got a scholarship in one of these liberal arts colleges, Georgetown, I think, to study further. And
Before
he saw that
he actually went to Starehe, and then went.
Oh
to,
yes, absolutely, yes. So he saw that, and he had personally experienced this trajectory of whereby school had taken him out of poverty. So for him, it was a personal experience, and it drove his policy making and the emphasis he placed on education. So it was a way out of poverty. Having said that, I think it's still important, because you can have all these schools and you can have children going to schools, but they keep getting sick because there's no clean water. So let's get the basics right. The right to education is also a right, but more importantly is water, sewage, right to life and so on, maternity care and so on. in those areas.
So yes, an opinion poll will actually show you where you need to start.
You don't need an opinion poll.
If people have access to what alternative access to water.
Eric, Jerry's not going to move from that position, okay? So why don't you just leave it? We've been responded to. A CDF manager is a civil servant, while the constituency manager is a political appointee by the MP.
So was he a political appointee?
No, he was a political appointee by the MP.
Look,
so
he was constituency manager, which means he is a civil servant.
No. The CDF manager is the civil servant.
Good, you're paying attention. Excellent.
Right.
That's what it is. Thank you.
So was he an appointee or a civil servant?
He was an appointee of his brothers.
Right.
And as a constituency manager, he had a say in how the CDF is actually managed.
Yes.
Right.
The constituency manager is a political appointee.
Well, either way, he did very well. I've been around when Okoth is giving out, the late Okoth, that is, when he was giving out bursaries. Again, education, he placed a lot of emphasis on education. But back to the discussion we're having in terms of polling and whether it's needed to inform people of what they need.
And as you do that, let me remind everybody that the phone lines are open, 0719 012 600. I'm also going to be sampling some of your comments on Facebook as well. And it's about everything as we come to the conclusion of the show. It's about opinion polls and it's about the outcome in Kibra and what it means politically, the bigger picture. Go ahead, Jerry.
This idea of polling to find out what people need, I think it's ambitious considering where we are in terms of we're looking at Kibra as a constituency. This comes off the back of what CT was saying, that we as the media could have done a lot more. We could have polled people and found out what they need. The politicians have been there for a while. They understand what's at the grassroots and exactly what is needed. But given what is needed in terms of basic provision of basic services in Kibra, you really don't need a poll or a survey to find out what is needed. Let's provide clean water, sanitation. We can move on to ensuring healthcare is there and
it's like saying
education.
We all know you need oxygen to actually live, so you don't really need a nose. You know, it's basic.
No,
you
like
understand. You can
that.
breathe through your mouth, and you'll still get the oxygen into your system.
No, it's not like
as long as you have the lungs.
Yes, so long as you have the lungs, because it's basic. We all understand we need oxygen.
The comments that are coming in on Facebook, let me read some of them. This is also going to the first question that we were asking. What does the election result in Kibra mean? It means the Jubilee Party, minus rigging, minus monkey business, is doomed. This was depicted yesterday when some MPs aligned to Jubilee kept dishing out money. A whole governor to be akidunga watu na mawe instead of shindano.
This is, of course, Boni Kalalwe. He's on the front page of the Standard holding stones. So there's evidence.
Musalia still depends on Raila to survive. I have nothing to brag about. Anybody who will want to see in this country is rationally... okay, I don't understand that. It means that we as voters have our choice, despite a lot of money being used to make people go against their choice. And the calls are also coming in. This is Paul calling in from Sondu. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning. How are you?
Good
morning. Fine, thank you. Welcome to the Situation Room.
Yeah, I want to comment on the issue of the opinion polling.
Yes.
I don't think it actually has much to do with whoever wins at the end. Because most of our politics are not objective. People look at the person. And then as they do that, they forget their problems and everything they go through to defend that person that they want. So I think our democracy has not reached that level. Maybe very few people would consider that. But actually majority would look at the person.
Right, so the personal
it
affinity...
may not have such an impact. Yeah, it's true.
The personal affinity supersedes the issues.
The issues, yeah. So basically, they're not... Most of the time, if you listen to whatever they say during the campaigns, issues are very minimal. They don't talk about issues that much. It's always attacking personalities. That's basically what is done.
So our politics doesn't lend itself to opinion polling anyway. Is that what you're saying? For even if it's issue-based opinions, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting perspective, which is what I was trying to say when I say let's be pragmatic here. We understand how our politics works. And if we do want opinions as to what's important, we get them through different sort of channels at grassroots level. You'll find all political parties will have grassroots level campaign machinery where you get to understand what's people's fears and desires are, what's in the hearts and minds of the people. So, yeah, I agree with the guy.
But it isn't scientific information gathering, is it?
No, it's not. But what I'm saying is we don't need that. We're not ready for it in terms of we're not.
At what point will we be ready for it?
No, we haven't reached the level of political maturity that polling would be a benefit to, i.e. understanding the issues. We're still personality based when we're voting. So you put the issues to the back burner and you vote for the personality. Your affinity to him supersedes any issues you might have. You forget about your issues.
I was suggesting that the media, given that they're already in the business of...
So we shape opinion by driving
We're already that business, exactly.
Do you
so
think the media...
why not go a step further?
Yes. 96.7 in Eldoret. Good morning, Rono.
Good morning, Eric and panel.
Good morning.
Yes, Jerry, today I'm with you. Yesterday I was going ballistic, but today I agree with you 100% that probably we have a degree of immaturity in the electorate. We are not yet addressing issues, and that is why our politics is very vitriolic. You know, it's going into each other's jugular vein.
Personalized.
Very personalized. You can see an intellectual like Dr. Boni Kalwale going down to
carrying stones.
But surely what we saw was the man carrying stones. Did he throw any stone?
What was he carrying these stones for?
Maybe there's some religious significance.
He didn't have to throw them. The fact that he had them in his hand quantified the level we are in. Now, if you also look at what the so-called agents of political parties in Kibra, you know, the violence meted on the Tanga team, and the way we are looking at it, it was a non-issue. You know, we accept it. It seems very normal. It tells you people are not yet ready to interrogate issues.
We are not.
But how do we get people to interrogate issues? If we say that they do not, how do we get them? If you don't raise them, and this is what I was saying, the media can actually help in that direction. And when you have opinion polls, you have information that has been scientifically gathered. It then forms a wonderful basis. Exactly.
City.
Yes.
There are certain basic tenets we have to engender in the first place. One of them is responsibility. How much responsibility do we, as a citizenry or electorate, have over how we appropriate power? You know, the moment you still talk of Jacom and Hasla and Kamwana, you know, those it tells you how far removed we are from.
You think it will take generations to change this mindset?
Not necessarily.
I actually don't understand you. How is that a sign of backwardness?
That's probably taking someone like City on board and keeping him appropriately to educate the masses. Instead of him
I know when I'm big butter. Waswahili wangesema unanipaka siagi.
Rono, let me bring in Elijah. Elijah is in Nairobi. Good morning, Elijah.
Yes.
Morning. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you. I think the idea of polling is very wise because we are talking about the basic things people need, and that's what we need to start with. That is the narrative that has been put on the third world from the first world. You are given a development agenda and told this is what we are going to do for you. Yes, in the broad strokes of things, those things are needed, but some of them are logistically capital intensive and challenging to achieve in a short term. Whereas if you ask the person who is there, they may tell you, look, I know I don't have water, but what I need is a path for my child to get to school safely instead of walking through sewage.
Right.
That is a readily achievable short-term goal, which will, in the long term, achieve what you want. But if we say, no, first we need safe water, then we need this, and there are so many barriers to access to that. The next thing we'll do is have a committee to review it, and then we'll have a water management authority for Kibra. Yet the people there don't need that. They want basic issues sorted, but I cannot say what those are. It's the people on the ground who can. So there's nothing presuppositional of having a poll. And also, many times when you get on these calls by whether it's your bank or whoever you deal with in life, they make you think about things you otherwise wouldn't think about. And so the poll also challenges you to think about situational challenges. You can structure a poll to inform the discourse in the area. So I don't think a poll is misled. I think it needs to, first of all, be genuine in that you actually want to get the answers to the questions. Two, it should be educative so that even those who've taken the poll sit back and say, I've never thought about the role of my, MCA. I know that they go in politics, but what is his role in my daily life?
Yeah.
And the next time they meet, they will ask these questions because they have been introduced to their mindset.
So maybe as a tool for civic education, perhaps, you're suggesting?
Civic education, but also not for us to sit, in Runda, Kitisuru, and wherever and say, the problem Kibra has is 1, 2, 3, and we are going to take X billion to fix it because I would like a place that has a toilet.
No, it's not that we would like. These are basic. These are basic human rights. We're not talking about our preferences. And what you're suggesting, what we're suggesting is
not been described by the basic human. The SDGs were not brought up from Kibra. They were brought from a place of lofty ideals and then prescribed to people who cannot even access those ideals.
Now, I can understand with certain development goals not being attainable, but when we're talking about basic rights and saying, well, there's barriers there, so let's focus on those that we can easily achieve, like building a path. But this child is still coming home and drinking water that is dirty, and there's no health services to then help if she catches whatever microbe she might pick up from this bad water. There's a reason as to why they're called basic rights. Basic.
Let me take that a step further. The child is now coming home. They are not stepping in sewage. You've already reduced the health risk.
But they're coming home to drink dirty water.
Fair enough. But once they've come home and they've not brought raw sewage into the household, then take on the challenge of that. You see, I'm not saying they don't need clean water. I'm saying we need to ask them what they need first, as opposed to saying clean water is what they need. This is what we are going to do.
I think after we've surpassed a certain sort of benchmark, after we've gone past a certain level, then we can start looking at what they need and asking them. But let us first get the basics and not run away from them because we say there'll be hindrances or this is much easier to achieve. I understand what you're saying. And of course, it would be very complex and dynamic because there would be so many sort of individual needs. So it would be very difficult to try and achieve that. And you can maybe
it's not complex.
No, because that particular, there'll be 4 people who need that pathway that doesn't have sewage. There'll be people, maybe 10 people living there, 3 of which have children that use that pathway. So for those 3 people, we put money and we invest in that because it's easily achievable. No, let's actually put a system in place that is sustainable in the long run that will help the whole community that provides water. If
These
we look
two
at the
things
human
are
rights,
not zero-sum discussions. These are not zero-sum discussions.
Absolutely
you have
not.
a water
But
management authority that should be providing this. The question is, if you are coming in to add value, you don't add value by duplicating tasks. You can challenge Nairobi water sewerage and say, guys, what's happening here? But as you're doing that, sort out the small things. Small victories lead to big solutions. You don't have to go for the gargantuan solution at the expense of the small one. When you sort out the small one, you will also buy in the local who will say, look, this local government is doing this for me. Talk to these people. They will do it for you too.
Do you feel, back to the polling, I agree with you to some extent. We're not completely on different sort of tangents. With regards to polling, do you feel the way to find out what these needs, these particular needs are, would be through polling? You don't think that there's enough of community presence and leaders